This is Comic Geek Speak episode 1932, the CGS Best of 2023 Awards nomination show. Welcome to the show. I'm Adam Murdo.
I'm Ian Levinstein.
And I'm Chris Eberly, working with Ed Sullivan.
Thank you very much.
Always got to have some fanfare on these nominations episodes. No doubt about it.
Expecting a tribute to John Williams for the outro music.
Clearly. Someone should let him know that, no, you know what? On second thought, maybe nobody should let him know. Yeah. Well, welcome one and all to the show, and it is indeed award season here yet again, as we throw them Jamies out there and let you folks know what our choices are for the best of 2023 and what your choices are for the best of 2023 while we are at it. And of course, we wouldn't be able to do any of that without said Master of Ceremonies, Mr. Adam Murdo. So Props to you as always, my friend.
At your service, gentlemen.
Excellent.
Murdo, you make a Herculean effort every year, and it's always appreciated.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Now we will do this round robin style, similar to the way that we do our top fives. We'll throw our nominations out one by one, and then we'll go into them with a little bit further depth, and then we'll land on the nomination for the listeners at the very end of that back and forth.
Okay, and I would like to advise you, my colleagues, that the listener The listener voting was very close once again this year.
Okay.
In a lot of the categories, there will be 2- or 3-way ties for the listeners' nominations. But just in case, in the unlikely event that we end up stepping on both of the listeners' nominees and there is no second place runner-up waiting in the wings, I may tap one or both of you gentlemen on the shoulder to ask you politely to switch over to an alternate nominee for yourselves if such a thing is at the ready.
By Murd goes, I follow.
Yep, we can certainly make that happen as needed. So no worries.
Just want to make sure that there's at least 4 things on the ballot for each category.
Agree entirely. And before we get to said nominees, let's get the business done that we typically get done. And that, of course, is reminding you folks out there at patreon.com/comicgeekspeak that you help this happen. And we thank you so much for all that support year after year that you give. For as little as $1 a month, we keep the lights on virtually and eventually in the studio. And we thank you so much for that. If for some reason you are not a Patreon member, you still want to donate, you still can over at patreon.com/donate.php. And don't give monetarily if you cannot do so. We perfectly understand that. Your support and letting a friend know about the show is just as needed. So iTunes reviews, contributing on the forums or the supergroup or anything of that sort is just as much of a support as anything else. But nonetheless, we thank you over at patreon.com/comicgeekspeak.
Absolutely.
And one more thing of note before we get going, for any of you who have not listened to the most recent quote unquote classic episode, where the folks announced that we are going to have ourselves a little bit of a celebration coming up in 2025. And we want to get the word out there in as many forms as possible. So if for some reason you didn't listen to that and you're listening to this, well, now you are aware. The 20th anniversary of Comic Geek Speak is in March of 2025. And we're going to wait until about the end of the month in order to celebrate it with you, the listeners, in person. No official formal plans as of yet, because depending on how many people say that they're going to come via this registration, we may have to pivot to a bigger room. But at least Golden Eagle and Third and Spruce are in the cards as of now. On Saturday, March 29th, 2025, festivities beginning at about noon and ending at about 11:30 once we stumble back to our respective hotels after a round of Third and Sprucing. We're looking forward to seeing all of you for the first time in quite some time, and there may also be some other festivities earlier in the month, virtually for those of you unable to attend that we're still obviously many months away from ironing out the details on. But let's celebrate in style. Absolutely.
I'm immensely looking forward to this.
Yes, yes, indeed.
As am I.
Because when you think about it, because we don't really set up at shows anymore.
Yep.
And a lot of that was done before I was a cast member. So I'm looking forward to just meeting a lot of listeners that I've never actually met.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
I'm really looking forward to this.
And there's people that we quite frankly haven't seen in approaching 10 years or more that may very well be attending this. So, yeah, it's going to be a hell of a time. And obviously, it's how I got into CGS in the first place. Were the gatherings? CGS 100 was the first time I met a decent amount of the CGS folks out there, and Sean Whalen and people that I've kept in touch with over the years. So very, very much looking forward to it. That URL, by the way, we did create a tiny URL that's a little bit easier. So if you go to tiny.cc/CGS20th. That's tiny.cc/CGS20th. You'll be able to find out more information on that, and it'll be in the show notes on the website perennially until next year. So,
now, is that 20th spelled out or 20th?
20th. Good call there, Murd. Yep.
Good question, Murd.
So CGS20th, tiny.cc CGS20th. So do check that out and register if you believe you will be able to attend. And we're happy to see you all when it does occur. All right. So now it is time for the good stuff. And we have tons of categories to get through here. And what better way to start than at the very beginning, which, of course, is Best New Hero or Hero Team, debuting in 2023.
Gentlemen, I propose that we start off in reverse order to introducing ourselves at the top of the show.
Fair enough.
So we'll begin with this category with Chris going first, and then Ian, and then myself, and then we'll just kind of take turns from that point on.
Sounds like a plan.
So, per tradition, we're doing the initial response, then we're going to elaborate later on.
Yes,
indeed.
Do it? Yep.
Okay, gotcha. All right, so this is a category I struggled with because when we do these shows, I go through all my DCBS orders for the past year because I don't remember everything I read. And I couldn't really find a book that I had read that had a new hero. And I'm thinking, wait a minute. Let me do what I did a couple of years ago when I struggled with this category again. This is my answer or my contribution, but it has a question mark after it. So my new hero is Lex Luthor.
Okay. Fair enough. My best new hero, Crossjack.
Ian, I was hoping you would say that.
Thank you.
Because it resolves a controversy I was having myself between that and another nominee, which is, thanks to you, will now just be my nominee without any further internal conflict. And so that is The Plot Holes.
And that is the most Murdonian name for a best new hero we could possibly have. So I appreciate that. I definitely
It's an enviable play on words. My hat off to Sean Gordon Murphy for coming up with it.
Absolutely. All right. So Lex Luthor, question mark, maybe a couple of exclamation points during for good measure.
So I'm thoroughly enjoying the new Superman series. And as many listeners may know, one of the conceits of that plot is that Lex Luthor is now seemingly emphasize that word, trying to aid Superman in his campaign for justice. He's even turned over his corporation to Superman's control. Now, obviously, I'm waiting for the shoe to drop, but it kind of reminded me of when Christopher Priest did a great run on Deathstroke, and I'm a Deathstroke as best new hero because he took a different approach in that character. And it's the same thing here for me. I love when you take an established character and kind of put everything on its head. And thus far, that's what we're getting with Luthor. So it's a very interesting take, and I'm enjoying it thoroughly.
Yeah, it really does put a new head on it because we've had Hero Luthor many times in the past. I mean, Lex Luthor's even been a member of the frickin' JLA. So it's occurred, but there's usually maniacal means behind it one way or the other, and we're not quite sure this time around.
Yeah.
So it really intrigues me as to the direction that Williamson is actually going with this. So good pick there, Chris. All right, so my pick is Crossjack, a character that has existed since the early days of Image Comics. Okay, maybe not, but it may as well have. Local Man is a title that I've been reading in trade, and I'm about 3/4 of the way through the first volume that was released in 2023. And I'll tell you that what I love about Crossjack is that it's a down on your luck hero that is the way that he goes about it too in the story is that he's not even allowed to hero. His hero group has kicked him out of the band essentially, and because of that, and because they own the rights to his character of Crossjack, he himself cannot actually be Crossjack in person. However, if you put on a ski mask and you run around your city, you can sort of skirt the law a little bit. And that's what's been going on in Local Man as he tries to uncover not only the nefarious means that have been occurring in his city, but also who's been killing off a bunch of villains and essentially trying to blame him in the process, but also not quite. What I love about this book, Local Man, is that it really does fit seamlessly into the old Image universe. And
certainly looks like it does.
Oh my God, yeah. the outfit itself is such a reject Rob Liefeld X-Force outfit in all the right ways. You know, he's got the Captain America shield with an X on it, you know, as many X's you could possibly fit on there, the Shatterstar helmet, like it's too perfect. His dog Pepper also keeps showing up in random spots as well.
Oh, I love a dog in a comic.
Oh yeah, as I'm reading this. But Seeley and Fleeks have done a tremendous job of building a character here. And I just appreciate how sad of a character Crossjack is. He may very well wind up becoming a full-blown superhero again, but for now, he's street level because there's really no other option for him. And that's what makes Local Man works for me, and that's what makes the character of Crossjack work for me as well. So he had to be my pick.
Yep, I agree, Ian. He's a figure of like the grubby, pathetic side of 90s nostalgia. You know, as you say, he is just a perfect borrowing from that period style of superhero storytelling. It's he's been around since the early days of Image. It's just we never knew about it because Tony Fleeks hadn't made him up yet. And yeah, it's been great seeing what happens when a 90s star of those extreme times falls back to earth and has to make a go of it, kicking around on a piece of ground in his hometown in Farmington, Wisconsin, and all the skullduggery that goes on there and all the unresolved scandal, the fallout from his old superhero team. It's fun to explore. And yes, Pepper is great.
Oh, yes. Absolutely. And the one of my favorite parts about it, too, is when you get to see the flashbacks, which are done in complete old school 90s artwork that just makes it that much sweeter.
Wow.
Like they're usually about like 5 or 6 pages at the end where you see one of the original adventures of this team. They're called the Third Gen, if I remember correctly. Right, yeah, and every single one of them is a pure 90s stereotype.
Yeah, those are gratuitous 90s superheroines, that's for sure.
Oh, absolutely. Yep. So good stuff, and yeah, really looking forward to seeing wherever this is going to take me. And Fleeks has been on a roll lately, and this is no exception.
All right, and my nominee, just to throw a little love to like a tertiary publisher here. This is something that came out of Massive Publishing this year. It's a great new concept in adventure comics from writer and artist Sean Gordon Murphy. It's called The Plot Holes. It was a 6-issue miniseries, and it follows the adventures of a team of characters who drift around. They have a spaceship which has a name that I can't quite remember at the moment, but it's something. It's something related to publishing anyway. But it's they're characters who are aware that they are fictional characters, and they travel throughout the metaverse, attempting to save the fictional worlds contained within various books from corruption and destruction. Sometimes from external threats, but most often from just the bad writing, just to save them from the twisted good intentions of their creators. So they're all refugees from works of fiction that couldn't be saved. As you can see here, there's a few archetypal characters here, like the big panther-like guy in the image that Ian has posted there is named Roar, and he's a big tiger man from some sword and sorcery reality. The little guy at his feet is named Kevin, who is basically Calvin from Calvin and Hobbes. So he's a comic strip character. There's like a vampire pirate queen, and their leader is a lady named Ed, who used to be a real flesh and blood person, but her husband wrote her into some story or other, and after her physical death, she basically reawoke as a fictionaut, who became the captain of this merry band of would-be world savers. And the point of view character, the guy in the black shirt with the skull on it, in that image that Ian had up a minute ago, he is a failed comic book writer from a failed novel. So he's layers upon layers. He's probably the next to Ed herself. He's the closest thing to a quote unquote real person in this. So his adjustment to life as a plot hole becomes ours, the readers, as they go on their adventures trying to rescue various different types of fictional landscapes, and everything from comic books to cookbooks from annihilation. And they come up against a threat in the form of one of their own before the story is said and done.
Okay.
So yeah, it's a very interesting concept. It's fairly meta, and it's reading it. I became interested in the characters. I became interested in all the different worlds that they visit. It makes me want to see more of this concept in the future.
It's kind of it kind of sounds like a cross between Drawn Together and The Exiles.
That's very good high concept there, and that's pretty much spot on. It is a lot like Drawn Together. I'd almost forgotten about that.
Mert, how many issues have been published of this title?
Only 6. It was just a 6-issue mini.
Is there a trade out?
That I'm not sure of. But it's from Massive Publishing, if you'd care to take a look.
Okay, cool.
What I always love about these episodes that we always get new stuff to read.
Oh yeah,
yeah. The recommendations.
This sounds right up my alley as well. So I'm gonna have to check this one out. Excellent.
Yep, I know it was a little off the beaten path. I was happy to just put in something that wasn't from any of the major publishers, just to spread our focus a bit, and hopefully some of the folks out there will like the sound of what I'm describing and check it out for themselves.
Indeed. Well done, sir. Well done.
All right, which brings us to the will of the people. And as I mentioned, the voting was very close in almost every category here. So there are going to be a lot of ties, and Best New Hero or Team is no exception. We've got a two-way tie here between Junk Rabbit, who is the title character of a miniseries about a costumed scavenger in a dystopian future world, from Image, I'm pretty sure, brought to us by writer-artist Jimmy Robinson. And tied with that is The Vigil, which is a team concept that appeared as part of DC's Asian-centric We Are Legends imprint this year.
Okay.
All right.
So there is our complete slate for Best New Hero or Team. And it consists of Lex Luthor, Crossjack, The Plot Holes, Junk Rabbit, and The Vigil.
Fantastic. All righty. Moving on from there, we get to Best New Villain or Villain Team, which debuted in 2023. I'll go ahead and go first this time around. Let's roll with Tauranos, the Utgard Thor.
Fantastic, Ian.
Yes.
Once again, you've resolved a controversy for me.
That'll do.
Although I may be stepping right into a different bear trap when I give my alternate choice, the Sovereign of the United States of America.
Nice.
My selection is a little more gritty. Constance Wayne from Gotham City Year One.
Oh,
okay.
Excellent.
Nicely done. So what I love about Tauranos is that take Thor and put everything up to 11. And that is how to describe the Utgard Thor, because not only does he control lightning, but and weather in ways that our Thor cannot, but also he's like untuple the size of our Thor. He's basically the dark universe version of Thor, to put it in DC terms. But there's not just an Utgard Thor. There's also an Utgard Loki, Utgard Odin. All these dark alternate takes on characters that we are aware of. But this one's kind of the most menacing, because one shot from his hammer could basically level New York City if done the right way. And our Thor has done his best to try to banish him on multiple situations in the Immortal Thor series as of now. But there have been multiple instances where somehow he's gotten himself back, and the Utgards in general just seem to be one of the threats that's going to be sticking around this title for a while. And really, it's also just in the design of the character, because it's almost like he's from an entirely different comic when he's inserted into the pages of the Immortal Thor, drawn way more realistic and obtuse than other characters, always using the blacks and the whites to emphasize that he certainly does not belong. It just makes him a very striking and frightening character in the end, and one that I'm incredibly intrigued to learn more about in Al Ewing's series. So Toranos is my choice.
Mm-hmm. Yep, and Ian, he came very close to being my choice too. He's technically an elder god. I mean, there's in Marvel, Asgard, Norse mythology, there's two different Utgards. One is just a mountain up in Jotunheim, and the other one is Utgard, which is also called the place of true things. It's a place where certain elder gods of Earth escaped to escape the degeneration of their kind into demons and whatnot. And Thor's mother, the elder Earth goddess Gaia, lives up there these days and tries to keep the peace amongst her brethren. But Toranos, he's the archetypal thunder god from which all other thunder gods of all Earth's lesser pantheons, like your Thors, your Zeuses, your Taranis, and so on, descend. He was Thor before Thor was Thor. He originated the concept. And so having thunder god come up against that which is the origin of all he is, basically, it's heck of a challenge.
It is.
And I definitely agree with your points about the visual dimension of the character, too, Ian. He is extremely striking. And as far as him looking like he belongs to a different comic, I think that's because the Utgardians were designed, actually, by Alex Ross.
Oh, nice.
And they're just kind of plugged into the comic by the regular monthly artist.
Very nice.
Yeah. So that's another feather in his very large cap there for Toranos, the Utgard Thor.
Mm-hmm.
So, thoroughly applaud your choice there.
Thank you muchly.
Mm-hmm. And now, the Sovereign of the United States. This character comes to us from Tom King and Daniel Sampere's current run on Wonder Woman. And he's a heck of an idea. I mean,
yes, he is.
On the face of it, I said this when we talked about Wonder Woman #1 months ago. It's such a simple, one might almost go so far as to say silly concept on the face of it. It's just this little old man in his ermine-trimmed robe and his crown sitting on his throne with a glowing magic purple lasso in his lap, the lasso of lies. And we're told that he and members of his family, his house, have been the secret ruling power behind the United States of America from colonial times, when his ancestor, adventuring nobleman, came across a hidden colony of Amazons living in North America, and they were holding this dark magic lasso. He killed them all, took the lasso, and took secret control of the colonies from that point on. And his family's just been ruling things behind the scenes ever since. It feels like an idea that would have been come up with by, say, a Robert Kanigher or a Bob Haney.
Yes, well put, Murd.
And it's just something they would have thrown out there to fill an issue or two and have Wonder Woman just punch this guy in the face and it's all over and done with. And basically that over a more extended period and a much more thoughtful development of the character, that is essentially what happens. Wonder Woman does defeat him, deposes him, and the whole story is told from some point several years in the future from his jail cell. He's relating it to Wonder Woman's future daughter. Just the story of how her mother defeated the king of these United States. So a secret king of the United States, I mean, just setting aside, the issues of having such a thing exist and always having existed in like a shared fictional universe. You'd think something like that would probably have come up or been discovered by some other of the umpteen different DC heroes before this. So, but just setting continuity issues like that aside, the character is chillingly well developed by our friend Tom King, who we know is extraordinarily competent in such matters, and he takes what could have been what feels like it could have been a throwaway Silver Age supervillain and turns it into a very thoughtful commentary on the current state of things politically in the United States and the constant threat or perceived, possibly paranoid, possibly not, idea in the minds of its citizenry that there is some higher, more distant power that is definitely not for the people, of the people, by the people, that is actually running things in this country.
Murd, I want to echo your sentiments because I've been reading that storyline as well. And what I think is especially captivating about it is that Tom is tapping into the United States' long sordid romance with conspiracy theories.
The whole deep state thing,
which has been with us really since the beginning, in various forms. And also, as you said, just he's also tapping into which I think is the reality that there are various. And I don't think they're hidden, very powerful interests that have a massive influence over a lot of the policies of our government. We see that in the Middle East. I mean, we know Donald Trump just went to Elon Musk asking him for money. So, that's a very garish example, but I think Tom is right on the money there with that character.
Yep. Yeah, Wonder Woman's another one of those series that I haven't quite caught up to yet, so I haven't gotten there. But certainly sounds like my type of character right there. And and the lasso of lies in general. Like, how has this not happened yet? To have a lasso of truth, there has to be a lasso of lies out there. And so, yeah, it makes.
That's why he's Tom King. He's going to be all over this recording, I suspect.
Probably, more than likely. Yep. So. Well done. Good choice.
All right, so Tom King again. So Constance Wayne is from the magnificent miniseries Gotham City Year One by Tom King, Phil Hester, Eric Gapster, and Jordi Belair. It's a Slam Bradley crime noir story. I mean, that's enough right there. That's what got me into it. Plus Tom and Phil Hester are working on this book. But it introduces a very dark aspect of the Wayne legacy, and it's the grandparents of Bruce. I think it's the grandparents of Bruce. And I'm not going to spoil the story, but Constance Wayne, let's just put it this way, is a absolutely chilling femme fatale. And the way King uses the character to unearth some very unpleasant aspects of like the Wayne legacy. And, he's really tapping into just classic noir plot devices here, but in a way that's, as always, is thrilling because it's him writing it. But this is not a supervillain, it's just a deeply manipulative, in many ways, very cruel character. It's also struggling with, the hand she's been dealt by being part of this family. Excellent. So that's my choice, Constance Wayne.
Excellent. All right. And what did the listeners choose?
All right. Well, we have another tie. And it was a three-way tie, actually. So I felt, if not justified, then at least free of self-compunction to pick the listener's pocket just this once. Because there was a three-way tie. The Sovereign was one of their three choices. The other two were The Harrower, which is actually the title character of a Boom Studios comic, I believe, and Fear, that's spelled PH34R in Leet speak, who is an antagonist from James Tynion IV's World Tree series.
Okay.
So that settles the new villain and team category for us. And the nominees there are Constance Wayne from Gotham City Year One, Toranos, the Utgard Thor, the Sovereign of the USA, the Harrower, and just flew out of my head. Fear. There we go.
Mm-hmm. All right. From there, category 3, best new comic. First issue shipped in 2023. And Murd gets to start us off.
Okay. Well, I'm going to go with The Immortal Thor.
Okay. Chris.
This is the easiest category. Conan the Barbarian.
Ooh. I figured that was going to be your choice. Yep. And mine is Birds of Prey.
Ah.
All right.
Yep. Murd, go ahead.
All right. Well, The Immortal Thor is kind of a late entry. Like, well, not so much. I think only like 5 issues, maybe 6 came out in the target year here. So it was towards like the second half of the year that we were introduced to it. But it's just Al Ewing doing what Al Ewing does best, which is, spin tales and just grab little projecting corners in the mythoi of established superheroes that were right there, but most writers hadn't been thinking of lately, and just tug on them. And he doesn't yank quite as hard as he did on the monster or the monstrous and undying side of the Incredible Hulk, for example. But he gave us stories of Thor that dig into parts of his mythological heritage that other writers haven't been focusing on so much lately, and also just giving us stories of a Thor that knows how to smile. Ewing came right out and said as much, I think, in one of his an essay in the back pages of one of the first couple of issues.
Yep, I remember the first issue that was very much emphasized.
Yep, he likes a Thor who smiles, and so that's what he's been trying to give us. I mean, he showed us in the first couple of issues a Thor faced with the very archetype that gave him birth, that towers over him by a factor of 20, and he was hardly perturbed by it, frankly.
Nope.
He knew might was on his side, and he just likes to get out there and revel in the presence of the lightning, even when someone who's even better at wielding it than he is present, and take the fight to him. And it's a series that, based on solicitations we've seen for upcoming happenings, is going to get even better and even more metatextual, and even digging even more into the roots of old-fashioned Norse myth-based storytelling, but bringing it into the present day, because we're going to get Thor and his legend co-opted corporately by his old enemy Dario Agger the Minotaur. and basically turned into a corporate shilling Marvel's comics version of itself.
Oh, wow.
That's what he has in mind. Yeah, so he's going to give us some real interesting stuff in the future, is Al Ewing, but he's off to a good start just by giving us some meat and potatoes Asgardian heroic adventures, some good old-fashioned slobber knockers. And he's got a pretty good take on Loki and Utgard Loki as well. As we get to see Thor and Loki return to their roots as youth in Asgard, adventuring and having their first encounter with said Utgard Loki.
Tales of Asgard.
Yep, and the Warriors 4 as well are nice to see in Ewing's Immortal Thor as well when they've shown up. So it's all been nice classic Thor comics with a new spin. Very different than what Aaron was doing, because I mean Aaron was Aaroning it up. Like it was weird, it was obtuse, but it still felt like Thor in its own way. This feels a little bit more like classic Simonson Thor in some ways to me. Like it's grounded in mythology, as you said, but also doesn't forget the fact that Thor is a superhero and leads into that when it has to. So good stuff. Yeah.
And plus Alex Ross's input doesn't hurt either.
No,
it never does. It never does. Yep. All right, Chris, and onward to you and a comic that we cannot stop hearing you talk about for good reason.
Yes. Ad nauseum, no doubt, from your perspective.
Yes.
So Conan the Barbarian, obviously a character's been around since the pulp era. Many different comic iterations at different companies over the years. I've always been at least a casual Conan reader throughout my life. I've read different, versions from different companies. This effort by writer Jim Zub, art by Roberto de la Torre, colors by Dean White, Jose Villarrubia. Forgive me if I mispronounced that. is one of the most exciting comics I've read in 2023. First of all, it really gets to the essence of what makes Conan such a thrilling character. The world building, the sort of the moral ambiguity of the character. But what's really amazing about this book is the artwork is so breathtaking. And it can just, I mean, Ian put up a great image. I mean, De La Torre, whose name is going to appear later on in my nominations, is, I mean, the tribute to John Buscema here is stunning, but he's also putting his own take on it. And it's so well versed in the world of Conan. They have the maps, they have, the stories are taking place at early in his life when he's starting to sort of begin his adventures. But there's a real complexity. These are not just like simple sword and sorcery stories. There's a lot more to them. Just choices he has to make that are often, searing and who lives and who dies. And this is a great book thus far. And anyone, you don't even have to be just a fan of Conan. If you love the medium, I highly recommend this title. So that's my new comic of the year.
Excellent. Yep, and super happy to see it back to its roots, away from the Avengers, and and Jim Zub. He's been known for years for his for his D&D comics and the Rick and Morty stuff that he's done. So this is very much in that same realm of D&D, only very much as Conan as you can get it. So excellent. All right, and my pick had to be Birds of Prey. I'm a huge Birds of Prey fan, have been for years. Dixon stuff, Simone stuff, the Bensons. They put out great takes on these characters, and we'd gone a couple of years without having a Birds of Prey title. There were hints here and there. Canary would show up in a Batgirl comic, and we get a little bit of the old fun back in it. But mid 2023, they launched Birds of Prey anew at DC Comics, and Kelly Thompson has breathed such new life into this concept. And mind you, part of it is the team, because you've got you've got Black Canary in there. You've got Barda. You've got Cassandra Cain, Batgirl, wearing a costume that is incredibly reminiscent of the original Batman costume, with the ears, and it's a little bit more of a subdued Batman costume in the way that it's executed, but it's got those long, wide ears. That is incredibly reminiscent of the original. Zealot from Wildcats thrown in there. Barda, Harley Quinn to round it out, and they also introduce a character from Gotham Academy, all grown up, as kind of their teleporter character who could also time travel a little bit. And I keep forgetting the actual name that they've given the character, because I remember what she was in Gotham Academy. Mia Mizoguchi was the name of the character, and she was known as Maps in Gotham Academy. But she has a different moniker here in Birds of Prey, all grown up essentially, and I believe she's time traveled in order to do this, but that's not 100% clear. But the first arc deals with breaking into Wonder Woman's home of Themyscira to get back Dinah's sister, which we had not seen in quite some time, and just the entire we need to break ourselves into Paradise Island concept works for the team and works for the execution of it. And to have Sin involved in any way just made me very happy, for an old school DC fan. But it's just good team action. It has a life to it and a personality to it. And even the execution of Diana later on, Diana, that is, later on with Wonder Woman, is done really well. And they're teasing in future issues that we may actually get Barbara Gordon involved with the Birds as an extra character involved there. So super glad that it's back. Kelly Thompson deserves my praise. And Leonardo Romero's artwork, who may very well wind up showing up on my list a little bit later, is an old school comic book artist for today. And it shows throughout the book. It's classic, but it's also new at the same time. Yeah, absolutely loving the book, and had to be on my list somewhere, so that's where it goes.
Yeah, that's the trick when making up these ballots of ours, trying to represent as many of the comics we most enjoyed in the course of the year in some way as possible.
Yep, absolutely the case.
All right, so that takes care of the three of us here. As for the listeners, it's a two-way tie again, and neither one of which was superseded by our own nominations, and neither one of which I think would, with neither one of which would we disagree. I think those of us here would all agree with these choices by the listeners. And their two choices are Daniel Warren Johnson's Transformers series from the Energon universe at Image, and Tom King and Daniel Samper's Wonder Woman.
There you go.
Excellent.
So there we go. And it's occurred to me that I haven't been shouting out some of the other things that got nominated here and there as I like to do. So I'm going to kind of backtrack and do a little bit of that here. But other things that were nominated for Best New Comic by the listeners, let's see. We've got Local Man, Phantom Road, World Tree. There's one for Birds of Prey in here. The current run of Green Lantern by Jeremy Adams, Sacrificers, and Beneath the Trees Where Nobody Sees. Oh, and also Invincible Iron Man, just for good measure.
There you go.
Okay, so the final ballot here then for Best New Comic of 2023, the first issue of which had to be published during that year, are Conan the Barbarian, Birds of Prey, The Immortal Thor, Transformers, and Wonder Woman. All right. Now, before we move on, let's go back and just shout out some of the things that the listeners liked for the first two categories. Okay, so let's see. Spider-Boy got a nomination or two. City Boy from DC's We Are Legends. Inferno Girl Red from Radiant Black. The most recent Planetary Style Outsiders team got some love. A favorite of mine, Wreck Rap from the Spider-Man books, although he first appeared in 2022, unfortunately, so he wouldn't have been eligible anyway. But I like the thinking. And then under villains, let's see, we had the Golden Age Red Lantern. Good choice there. New Mazo from Batman and Superman World's Finest. There's Utgard Thor is in there, Tyrannos, the Commodore from Danger Street, the Scoundrel from She-Hulk, Dr. Hate, let's see, Caleb Hawthorne, Exhaust from the Ghost Rider series. And I would like to apologize to folks out there who nominated Judy Garrick, the Golden Age Flash's daughter, in the new hero category, and also the Childminder in the new villain category. Both of them introduced in Jeff Johns and Todd Knox's Stargirl, The Lost Children miniseries. Both great choices, but unfortunately, they technically first appeared in November of 2022. So even though they didn't really get enough development, they were all just kind of lost in the crowd until 2023 when they developed into nominatable characters. But so it's just one of those on the bubble kind of things. So as a technicality, Judy Garrick at least would probably have been on the ballot. She had got enough nominations, but she's ineligible.
Fair enough.
Sorry, folks. All right. So I guess the time has come to move on to Best Limited Series, the final issue of which had to ship during 2023.
Yep. And Chris, go ahead and start us off.
I've been waiting, I think, 2 years for this. My choice, of course, is The Human Target by Tom King and Greg Smallwood.
I figured it would be. Excellent. Yep. My pick, Ultimate Invasion.
Ooh, very nice. And I'm going to revert to a title I was talking about just a moment ago, Stargirl, The Lost Children.
There you go.
All right, so I've been raving about this book, as many listeners know, for the past couple of years. It came out, 6 issues came out, then there was a hiatus, and then there was a supplemental issue, then they returned to the second half, the 12-issue run. Again, repeating myself, I think this is one of the most exciting comics that I've read in many years. The design sense, the art, the coloring by Greg Smallwood is some of the most phenomenal art I've seen in a comic in quite some time. And Tom King, again, applying noir sensibilities. Kind of, again, it's a Black Label book, so he's really probing some dark elements of the DC universe in the story. But again, I don't want to spoil for people who have not read this yet, but for me, as a complete story, this is one of the most exciting comic books I've read in years, out of everything I've read over the past several years. And I think it cements Tom as one of the most important leading writers in comics right now. I mean, his work is all over my list in various ways. So this is, for me, there's a lot of good comics out there. Then there's a book like this, which is just way on another level. This is highly sophisticated. I mean, the nuance involved in the character interactions. I mean, characters like Ice and Guy Gardner, you see them in very different ways than you're accustomed to. This transcends. That's my pick.
Yep. And you literally have been waiting 2 years to
Yes.
to have that on there. So well played, sir. Well played.
Yep.
All right, Ultimate Invasion. This is a mini series that returned us to a little bit of my youth because in a lot of ways, the Ultimate Universe kind of like super duper charged me into the world of comics at a time when I was waning. And that was like the early 2000s. But Ultimate Spider-Man had that spark to it. The Ultimates were a vibrant and interesting new take on the Avengers. Then eventually we got Ultimate Fantastic Four, which everybody forgets is what gave us Marvel Zombies.
Yeah, that's right.
As you know, that was an issue of that really began that whole phenomenon over at Marvel. Plus the Ultimate X-Men had some really good runs in there as well, and eventually things got stupid. Ultimate,
as they often tend to do.
Yeah.
Yes. Quite.
Ultimate Universe. Jeff Loeb does some really good comics. The Ultimate Universe stuff was not it. And it kind of waned that entire experience a little bit. But one of the big major selling points of the Ultimate Universe near its end was Ultimate Avengers by Jonathan Hickman, which was kind of the prototype for his Avengers and New Avengers run on the main 616 universe. A whole bunch of the ideas that he put forward in that wound up making their way over. So he's not a slouch, and he's not unfamiliar with the Ultimate Universe. So when Marvel came a-calling to have Jonathan Hickman essentially bring the Ultimate Universe back in some way or another, I was thinking he was going to do a damn good job of it. Getting Brian Hitch on the artwork for one of his final Marvel works, as now he's basically going in solely independent, really did not hurt matters much at all. The artwork is superb throughout in this, and it crafts a story that essentially gives us a new Ultimate Universe, which we're now reaping the benefits in what may very well be my best new comic of 2024 when we do this next year, Ultimate Spider-Man.
Oh, wow.
And,
it's a great book so far.
Oh my God. Yeah. And just the concepts that are being brought forth in this new version of the Ultimate Universe are as unique as the original Ultimate Universe. And this miniseries that set it up, having, the bad Reed Richards from that failed Ultimate Universe, essentially creating a catalyst, breaking out of his prison to then find a universe that was as close to his as possible and manipulate it using time travel and his own malicious intentions to stop the heroes of that universe from happening. And you get this like syndicate of villains. Russia is being run by Illyana and Peter Rasputin. You've got a bunch of other villains in the Marvel universe running Europe and United States and other areas. Because of him, essentially the Reed Richards of this new Ultimate Universe is Doctor Doom, which is fascinating in and of itself, because he's got him wearing a mask because he doesn't want to see himself. He doesn't want to see the reflection of himself, but he wants his self's help in bringing people down. By the time this is over, we do get that reset point. We do get the heroes coming out, and we get something else that's going to show up literally in later on in my list in one form or another. So yes, Ultimate Invasion did the job. It executed the return, and it gave me a piece of my youth back in a lot of ways, in a new and unique fashion. Which reminds me, I really need to read the first issue of Peach Momoko's Ultimate X-Men while I'm at it, because that's getting rave reviews across the board as a new launching port for the X-Men there. So, Ultimate Invasion, well worth mentioning.
All right, and speaking of getting pieces of youth back, yours and quite a few other people's, Ian. Stargirl: The Lost Children.
Yes,
all
indeed.
right. This is all about rescuing lost chunks of comics golden age, both real and fabricated for the purpose, shall we say. It's about Courtney Whitmore, Stargirl, getting snatched up by a character called the Childminder, who we eventually learn is kind of like this horrific version of Mother Goose fused with elements of the Soviet folklore or the Russian folkloric figure Baba Yaga, who is just taking it upon herself to capture for a mysterious buyer a whole bunch of young superhero sidekicks from the golden age of comics. Some of them are actual period authentic characters that actually appeared in golden age comics here on Earth Prime, and a lot of others are ones that Jeff Johns just kind of made up, for
Look at this 2-page spread. Wow.
Yeah.
That is fantastic.
Outstanding.
Yep. Those are the characters that he had to work with, and just to give himself more young golden age characters to work with, and also in a way as a kind of an added bonus to diversify the golden age retroactively. Just introduce some more female sidekick characters, more characters of color. So there they are. And Courtney gets to know all of these characters as they're imprisoned together in the Childminder's little nursery outside of reality. And over a period of issues, they stage a jailbreak, basically. There's a couple of surprise reveals along the way, including the unexpected involvement of a founding member of the 1999 version of the JSA, whom we haven't seen in a while, who's a special favorite of mine and Shane's. And who we'll be talking about? Only time.
Of course.
Yes. So, it's just a bunch of fun new characters, and John's just tossing them all out there into the DC universe, and hopefully writers other than himself will make some use of them. Already we're seeing some of that. For example, the aforementioned Judy Garrick, for example. She's co-starring with her father, Jay Garrick, in a miniseries this year written by Jeremy Adams.
Yeah, Jeremy Adams, yep.
And he uses one or two of the other lost children in that story, too. So just a whole bunch of additional texture given to DC's Golden Age retroactively here, complete with Who's Who style dossier entries, which I think were mostly included in the new Golden Age special in 2022. So that doesn't really factor into what I'm talking about here. But the miniseries itself certainly spilled over into 2023 and ended in this year. And I mentioned earlier the reclaiming of pieces of childhood. Ian, I don't know if you've been reading this miniseries, but you can see Todd Knock artwork.
Oh, yes, absolutely. And gorgeous Todd Knock artwork at that, man. Like he is putting his heart and soul into this. Yep.
It is very pretty. And that 2-page spread illustrates the point nicely. So thank you for putting that up there, Ian. Yeah, now there's certainly miniseries that came out this year that were more sophisticated than this one, that exhibited, to paraphrase Chris a minute ago, the transcendent artistry of the sort that was shown by King and Smallwood in the Human Target, for example. But it's scratched me in a part of my fanboy person in a way that needed to be scratched. It's just a very fun, historically minded, colorful, action-oriented DC miniseries. And I'm happy it exists, and may it touch off a whole bunch of fun new developments using DC's Golden Age characters, old and recently created, in the near future.
Here.
So there we go. Stargirl: The Lost Children.
Excellent. All right. And what say we on the listeners?
Another tie. And a couple more things that I think we'll be happy to have on the ballot. One of them is Danger Street, the maxi series by Tom King and Jorge Fornes, his love letter to DC's tryout book of the 70s, first issue special. And also from Image, 8 Billion Genies.
Nice.
So that was well received by folks. All right. Other stuff that got nominations. The Disney Villains Maleficent miniseries from Dynamite. Superman Space Age. Something that's going to find its way onto the ballot later on, so we don't need to worry about having overlooked it. Let's see. Dark Knights of Steel. Spy Superb. Gotham City Year One. Here's a vote for The Human Target. And Stargirl, The Lost Children is in there too. The Radiant Pink miniseries. And Batman, Joker, The Deadly Duo. Betsy Braddock, Captain Britain, etc. But the thing
go ahead, sir. I'm sorry, I'm going to cut you off.
No, you go ahead, Chris.
Just as a reminder of how many great series came out. Dark Knights of Steel was phenomenal. What was the one you mentioned before that? Superman Space Age was another one of the top books of 2024. It's great when you have so many things to pick from.
Oh, absolutely. Yep.
One of the things Superman Space Age had working against it was that it was kind of infrequently published, and I think it really should have probably come out. It should have finished in 2022.
I would encourage listeners to pick. There's a beautiful hardcover edition of that story, and that's a story that's well worth reading in hardcover. So,
excellent.
All right. So, once again, your nominees in Best Limited Series of 2023 are The Human Target, Ultimate Invasion, Stargirl, The Lost Children, Danger Street, and 8 Billion Genies.
All righty. All right. Onward we go to Best Single Issue or One Shot. I am going to go with Outsiders #1 as my pick for Best Single Issue.
You were a big fan of that.
Oh, yeah. Yep, absolutely.
All right. Just got to take a stab here and say this year's Timeless One Shot was pretty good.
There you go. Yep.
So mine is under the category of single issue. Nightwing issue 105.
Okay.
All right.
Yep. So Outsiders #1 is a book that came out near the end of the year. And it's why when we talk about things that belonged on our list somewhere, it had to make it in there, and this was the best place to put it because I am so damn intrigued with the story that is going to be told here in 2024, and it all began with this beginning issue. We're treated to it's not a spoiler to say we're basically treated to a very Planetary-esque team put together by Batwing himself and along with Batwoman and a bunch of other characters that are new to us that are out there dealing with multiversal threats and also threats within the Earth that we ourselves may not be familiar with, that are more dangerous than we can imagine. And it's all basically just trying to keep the DC universe together. And in this first issue, Batwoman gets recruited. Batwoman gets her cool new take on her outfit. I really appreciate that it's not really a wig situation anymore, and I like the new shape of the cowl where you actually get to see her mouth a little bit more than you used to. It's overall just a really good look in general, and a couple of characters that are a little bit familiar to say like people who are familiar with like the Street as a character. There's some characters introduced here that are very, very similar to that in Wildstorm ways, but we are just going to get more and more story out of this as we move forward. I've read the next 2 issues after this, and I'm thrilled with what we got. There's a issue later on that I almost wound up nominating, but I believe it came out in January, so it just barely missed, where it's very reminiscent to the Planetary issue with all the Batmen, as they make their way into essentially a sanctum of all the Batmen that could possibly exist. and are immediately called out for not being Batman. And what are they doing here? And clearly you've made a mistake. You need to get out of here before we wind up destroying you, because this is our place, not yours. All while somebody's trying to take out all the Batmen. Nevertheless, this first issue gets us started on a ride that I am thrilled to be on. Lanzing and Kelly are heroes amongst men who are doing some of the best comics in comics right now, and to have them involved with a DC title like this just makes me thrilled. If you haven't read this first issue, give yourself a shot and see whether or not this will be something that you continue reading in 2024. I'm pretty sure you will be, because it's damn fine stuff. So Outsiders #1 is my pick.
I will be picking up that trade just as soon as I am able, Ian.
Fantastic.
Ooh, well, I guess I'm up already.
You up?
Yep.
Okay. Well, we're going to go from Lansing and Kelly to Lansing and Kelly here. So I'm spotlighting this year's timeless one-shot, and this has kind of become an annual tradition at Marvel to come up with one of these timeless one-shots. They're extra-sized. They tell a story of their own while also previewing developments that we can expect to see in the pages of Marvel Comics of the year to come. So it's it kind of makes them sound like an advertising circular. You know, I can almost liken them to the little TV specials that the networks used to put on to hawk their upcoming Saturday morning lineups. You know, like back in the 80s, you would see like Alf or the cast of Saved by the Bell showing little clips of the upcoming schedule of Saturday morning cartoons. This one shot does show little flashes of the upcoming storylines in different upcoming Marvel comics, but it doesn't fixate on that. It tells a story of its own. It's by a great creative team, you know, Jackson Lansing and Colin Kelly. We know what kind of storytellers they are at this point. And the art is by Juan Cabal, who did a run on Guardians of the Galaxy a couple of years ago, and I nominated him as Best Artist of the Year for it. So, yep. Obviously, I'm impressed by the work he does. And it's an oversized one-shot featuring the talents of these gentlemen, and it is the last Power Man and Iron Fist story. I don't want to even say much more about it than that. It spans the whole length and breadth of their friendship and their partnership. It shows them at the beginning, and then it shows them at the end.
Oh, wow.
And that's the end is what you see on the cover image that Ian has on screen here. Luke Cage has once again, he's kind of been genetically recombined with the powers of a couple of other Marvel heroes, and he's carrying on for himself and for them. Meanwhile, Danny Rand has kind of lost his way. And, so that's Chris, you're going to want to read this
yeah, I love Power Man and Iron Fist, Murd. Yeah,
I know. And if it's found its way to Marvel Unlimited yet, or whenever it does,
it definitely has. Yeah, yep.
Yeah.
Well, then Chris, hit that thing up. And more than that, I don't think I'll bother to say, but it was just a strong showing, and it's one of the better single-issue self-contained stories of the year. I mean, I had a couple of others on here, but actually the listeners already nominated them all, so this was sort of an alternate for me, but it deserves to be here too. So, Timeless 2023.
Excellent.
All right, so it's Nightwing. It's Tom Taylor. It's Bruno Redondo. It's Nightwing issue 105, and all I'll say about it is Redondo draws the book where you, as the reader, are seeing the entire story through Nightwing's eyes. Really, what else needs to be said? I mean, it's some of the most dynamic art you're going to see in a comic in all of 2023. So
wow.
I don't think I need to go any further. I mean, just Ian's pulling up images right now. Look at that. I mean, come on.
Outstanding.
Yeah, I mean, frankly, I don't even fully remember the story because it's been a while, but it doesn't matter. Just look at the art. Like it is one of the most exciting comics of 2023 by a mile.
I want to say that the Double Dare, like the twin sister French acrobat supervillains are part of it.
That rings a bell. But look at the reflection in the glass window. Like it's great selection, Ian. Great selection.
Outstanding.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Anyone who loves the medium, just get this book. Either get the trade or find the issue.
Yep, and I heartily echo Chris's words here. This is one of the ones that I had considered nominating too. It's just a great work with the perspective artwork in superhero comics.
Excellent.
That's all I had to say.
All right. Well, what the listeners had to say was that they also liked Nightwing number 105. So, but it was part of a three-way tie. But of course, Chris has nominated Nightwing 105 as his own. So the other two things that the listeners have led on the board here are Wonder Woman #4, which is a story that I think involves a Wonder Woman visiting with a young dying boy and bringing
That's
him
right. Oh, it's a great issue.
Themyscira in defiance
Wonderful.
of Amazon law.
It's wonderful, yep.
And another one that I had been tempted to nominate myself, Batman Superman World's Finest #12, unforgettably titled Scream of the Chaos Monkey.
You've been waiting all night for that.
I've been waiting for weeks for that, Chris. And it tells the untold Silver Age story of that time when Dick Grayson, Robin, and Supergirl went on a date.
Nice.
And it does not go well.
Nothing could possibly go wrong.
Bird, I'm glad you feel better.
Yes. Got that out of my system and onto the ballot.
Excellent.
All right, so let's see what else we got in here from the listeners. Let's see, Batman Off-World #1, the facsimile reprint of Batman #528 from Death in the Family, but it's the alternate version in which Robin lives, which is a great choice, I think. Let's see, the Batman One Bad Day Clayface one-shot, which I think was also Lansing and Kelly. Let's see, Tales of the Human Target, that one-shot that was stuck in there.
That's a good one. Yep.
Tide us over until the miniseries finished. A Foulness in the Walls. I don't know what that is, but it's a great title. Fantastic Four #10, Power Girl Special #1, Invincible Iron Man #6, and Svengoolie, Lost in Time. I didn't even know that they put out a Svengoolie comic book, but I'm kind of glad that it exists. All right, so there we go. Best single issue or one shot. Your nominees are Nightwing #105, Outsiders #1, the Timeless one-shot from Marvel 2023, Batman Superman World's Finest #12, and Wonder Woman #4.
All right. Onward we go to Best Cliffhanger or Moment. And
Okay.
Murd, we go to you.
All right, I'll kick us off here. This is a moment from Titans #3 that I'm just going to call Brother Eternity and Tempest Face to Face.
Ooh. Chris.
Star Trek 15, issue 15, the final panel, the final page. Benjamin Sisko is run through the chest with a spear. End issue.
Oof. And I'm going to go with the revelation of Ultimate Kang in Ultimate Invasion #4.
Bang!
Ultimate Kang. All right, people. Now we turn our attention to a book that hasn't been mentioned yet tonight, but it's been great so far. It's the new Titans series.
Yeah, it is great.
As written by Tom Taylor with art by Nicola Scott. And a storyline in the first several issues is the resurgence of the former Church of Blood, now called the Church of Eternity. It's successfully rebranded itself, led by a Brother Eternity rather than a Brother Blood. Now, the Titans are a little suspicious of the fact that their old ally, Garth, a.k.a. Aquaman, a.k.a. Tempest, who has been recruited by the Church of Eternity and has become kind of a public spokesperson for their global activities. And the Titans, justifiably suspicious as they are, they go to check out the Church of Eternity. They're given kind of a grand tour behind the scenes and everything. It seems squeaky clean to them, but they walk away feeling like something's still not quite right about it. And then towards the end of issue #3, once the Titans have gone, Tempest and Brother Eternity have a little private talk about how Brother Eternity is concerned that the Titans still have concerns and asks if Tempest will do a little more to put them at their ease. And then you turn the page to the final page, and there's just this extreme close-up full-page spread. I'm not going to spoil it in all its detail, but let's just say it's beautifully and horribly rendered by Nicola Scott. It's just visually disturbing and glorious, and it proves beyond the shadow of a reasonable doubt that there is indeed a little more going on with the Church of Eternity and its doings than meets the eye. The Titans, it's a good thing that they're curious. And, so this, yeah, so that final image was a great cliffhanger, and it ultimately, it gradually ties into the Beast World crossover that comes, which is not as good, but still, the image and what it forebodes it's very strong comic storytelling, and you can just practically hear like the 50s horror movie style horn sting as you see it. It's one of the best single pages in comics this year in what has been a great series thus far for these classic DC characters. So this is kind of an easy one for me. I just slapped that onto my ballot right there.
I also can't help but read the cover to this issue 3 in U2's voice. In the name of blood.
Bring up my favorite band. Oh, I moved.
Excellent. All right, Chris.
All right. So what else needs to be said?
Ooh.
So Star Trek 15, excuse me. Now, this is Kellyanne Lansing again. And Shane and I have been raving about the Star Trek titles from IDW now for months. And I don't want to spoil much. But, you know, when an issue ends with the main character being gored like a stuck pig, that's going to whet your appetite for the next issue. So, just again, the whole title is exploring the return of Cisco from when he went off with the wormhole aliens or the Bajoran gods. If I look at the end of Deep Space Nine, and the story is not disappointing, and this was I now know what happened because I've read subsequent issues, but it was just a great cliffhanger moment, just a classic cliffhanger.
Well, they're pretty good at that, and you got to love a good cliffhanger.
Yep.
All right, and for me, the revelation of Ultimate Kang. Kang was the maker's foil throughout Ultimate Invasion, which is why he actually, first put the mask on, Reed Richards of the new Ultimate Universe in order to make him Doom to help him out. Because essentially he wanted to create something to stop Kang from messing with him. And when you actually get the reveal of who Ultimate Kang is at the end of Ultimate Invasion number 4, it all makes sense within that universe because of the way that characters were made in this reality. Certain characters exist and certain characters do not, and certain heroes exist and certain heroes do not. And certain heroes exist simultaneously. And that's where I will leave it with the reveal of Ultimate Kang. It kind of shapes where the Ultimate Universe is going to be later on because of the events of this issue and the subsequent issue. A big calamity occurs on the level of 9/11, which shakes this Ultimate Universe to its core, and someone is blamed for it very, very much, which also ties into who this Ultimate Kang is. I'm not going to spoil it. I'm going to have you read it and enjoy it for yourself, but it very much helped shape what this Ultimate Universe is going to be. So do read that in Ultimate Invasion number 4.
All right. Okay, now as to the listeners, this category is getting to be a thorn in my side here because it's like herding cats trying to get the nominating listeners to agree on anything as far as best cliffhanger or moment.
Yeah.
Last year, we had to run with 3 nominees in this category because no 2 participating listeners nominated the same thing. Now, this year, we came very close to having that same problem, but it just so happens that there were 2 listeners who nominated 2 different moments in the same issue, that being Danger Street number 12.
Okay.
So what we're going to do is we're just going to put Danger Street number 12 on the ballot, and whatever your favorite moment in that issue is, you can pretend that's the one that's on the ballot and vote for
it. That'll do. Your favorite moment is issue 12 of Danger Street. There we go.
So that's what we're running with. All right. As far as other things that got one and one only nomination from the listeners, let's see. From Mark Russell's Traveling to Mars, when the main character discovers that there's no gas in his rocket. When Optimus Prime puts on Megatron's arm at some point in the Transformers series. Let's see. Madam Mask versus Hammerhead, an Amazing Spider-Man gang war. That's a fight I think I'd like to see, actually. Orcus crashing the Hellfire Gala in the X-Men books. Injustice Superman versus the original wicked reflection of Superman, Ultraman.
Ooh, yeah. Yep.
Something that happened in Power Rangers. Something that happened in Void Rivals when the Transformers first showed up. Night Terror's Batman #1. Oh, the use of bat shark repellent in Batman #135.
Yes.
To imagine.
Oh,
and
man.
Superman making use of Brainiac's portal in Superman Space Age.
Okay.
So there you have it. Our nominees for Best Cliffhanger Moment are Cisco getting stabbed in Star Trek #15, the revelation of Ultimate Kang in Ultimate Invasion #4, Brother Eternity and Tempest Face to Face in Titans #3, and something in Danger Street #12.
All right. Which now brings us to Best Storyline within a series or across multiple series. And I'll start us off here. And I'll say this was actually weirdly one of the hardest for me because I didn't realize just how few storylines I read this year. But I'll go with The Impossible City, Avengers 1 through 6.
All right.
Okay. Chris, I believe you're next.
Sure. Star Trek Day of Blood.
There you go. And Murd.
And I went with the compelling central mystery of the Avengers Inc. miniseries, Who is Victor Shade?
Nice. Nicely done. All right, yeah, so I went with The Impossible City here, which the entire thing pretty much exists because of one of the other timeless one-shots, which set up Kang in his current situation in the Marvel Universe. But I discussed this on a previous episode after we talked to Dave Wachter, and I think might have been you, Murd, who brought up that the setup of this Avengers series is similar to Morrison's JLA, where you get your key components and try to get a nice team of like 6 or 7 in there that all makes sense, and that's what we get here. Wanda, Vision, Captain Marvel, Sam Wilson as Captain America, Black Panther, and I think I'm forgetting somebody off the top of my head, but either way, so those are our and Iron Man, of course, and those are our key components in the book itself. And with this Impossible City arc, you get the Avengers at their core because they're dealing with threats from beyond, one of which is that Kang shows up and gives them clues on how they are could possibly save 1,000 people who have been who he knows are about to die. So right away they go off and they deal with that. But then they are left with the threat of the Impossible City and its residents, which are some of the biggest bads in all of the multiverse, which have essentially taken this city hostage and made it not just their home, but also their key to destroying the multiverse one by one. And throughout this series, you get the Avengers doing what they do best, which is avenging and kicking ass. And really, that's all I wanted out of it. It's a base, plain, simple Jed McKay story. I enjoyed it. By the time we get done with issue 6, we get a new Avenger. That was almost my cliffhanger moment to be honest with you, because it's actually pretty damn cool. That the Avengers not only have a new Avenger, but essentially have a new headquarters. You could probably guess what that is by the name of the arc, but nonetheless, the Impossible City does the job for me. And I listed as my best storyline, which was Avengers 1 through 6, that it ran through. All right.
So sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there.
No, I was literally going to intro you, so it's all good.
Thanks, honey. Levy poo. Okay, now Star Trek Day of Blood. So caveat: if you know the Star Trek world, you'll probably enjoy this story a bit more than if you're just a more casual reader. I don't say that to scare people off, but what I loved about this, it ran through the entire summer. Mm-hmm. It went back and forth between the Star Trek title and the Star Trek Defiant title. It's Kelly Lansing and Cantwell doing the writing, so that's enough right there. But it encompasses all the different eras, people from the different crews, And any story that involves the Klingons, especially when you have essentially a Klingon civil war going on, you've got Worf dealing with the legacy of his parenting his son. You have Cisco returning. A new issue came out this like every week. I think it was like August and July or August, September. I went to my local comic shop every week because I hadn't ordered these to buy them. I was that excited to read them. And if you love Star Trek, especially if you love Deep Space Nine, you must read Day of Blood. It is as exciting as any Star Trek television episode. Mm-hmm. Superb.
Excellent. Wow.
High praise indeed.
Yeah, most definitely.
All right. Now, time for me to talk up a miniseries that I enjoyed quite a bit. I'm not sure that the final issue came out before the end of the year, so I'm not sure whether it was eligible for best miniseries or not. But I'm going to go with the most, well, not the most interesting necessarily, but the most thrilling plot thread of this miniseries, which kept me. I was eager for new issues to come out as a result of it. The Avengers Inc. This miniseries was written by Al Ewing. It's basically it's Janet Van Dyne Private Eye. It's kind of a hard-boiled take on the Avengers. See, there, that bears it out nicely. Thank you, Ian. Mm-hmm. Oh, yes, the art is by, I'm assuming, Leonard Kirk?
You are correct, yeah.
Okay. So, yeah, Janet gets involved in a mystery that leads to a variety of other mysteries. And it makes her aware of the necessity or desirability to have some Avengers representative present to troubleshoot to work with the legal authorities to solve certain cases involving the superhuman community. And so she sets up like a special lounge in Avengers Tower, basically, where she can be found to take on cases such as this. And it begins with her old archenemy, David Cannon, aka Whirlwind, a former member of the Masters of Evil. He is a victim of what appears to be a new scourge of the underworld. So that's what a fan I am of that concept.
Oh, yes.
So to have that as another plot thread of this series was great. But he, along with a bunch of other lower-level supervillains, end up getting killed while in custody. But David rises from the dead, speaking with a completely different speech pattern, kind of sounding like an old-fashioned hard-boiled detective, and calling himself Victor Shade, which is an old alias that the Vision used to use.
That's right.
At certain times in his synthetic life. So Janet is now left to ponder, even as she takes this guy on as a partner, basically just to keep, your friends close and your enemies closer, and this guy could be both or either. She takes him on as a partner to solve a few cases. So it becomes for the miniseries like an episodic Remington Steele type series of just solving superhero and villain related mysteries. But the real mystery in the meantime is who is this guy who is formerly David Cannon? Who is he now? Even he doesn't seem to fully remember. So the answer is, of course, steeped in Marvel Universe and specifically Avengers lore. And along the way, we encounter a whole bunch of cool little scene Marvel second and third tier supervillains that Al Ewing scraped up from somewhere, and all of whom, I'm happy to say, with few exceptions at least, he writes well in character. Like he clearly put a little bit of research into this, which I always appreciate. So just figuring out who this guy is that Janet has taken on as partner it was exciting. It was just all the thrill of a good old-fashioned whodunit, and the writing is a little bit on the wall. If you're well-versed in your Marvel lore, you might figure it out before I did. But all is revealed in the final issue, and I don't want to say it's a huge surprise, but it's one that I personally didn't see coming.
Oh, Mert, all right.
Okay.
So there we go. Who is Victor Shade in Avengers Inc.?
Excellent.
Okay, and as for the listeners, looks like their choices were the story in Superman Space Age from Mark Russell and Mike Allred, so that did find its way onto the ballot in some form here, and also Batman Failsafe. So
nice.
Those are
all right.
those are the listeners' choices. Other things, one of the stories from the Swan Songs miniseries from the creators of Ice Cream Man at Image, Nightwing as a pirate.
That's fun.
That took up a few issues this year.
Yep.
Justice Society's epic cross-time struggle with Per Degaton in the JSA maxi series. Let's see, Dark Droids from Marvel. The New Burn series from Image. I know Chris, you're
superb.
a fan of that.
Great book.
Let's see. The Sovereign of the U.S. arc in Wonder Woman, Batman Outlaw, Night Sun in the Rogue Sun series, the resolution of the What Did Peter Do mystery over in Amazing Spider-Man, Night Terrors, Wolverine Weapons of Vengeance.
Okay.
And The Girl and the Hurricane, which is a storyline in Something is Killing Children.
Thank you. Well done.
Superb.
Got to do it right, Ian.
Oh, of course. Always.
Mm-hmm. So there we go. Best storylines as nominated here are Day of Blood from the Star Trek comic, The Impossible City, the opening arc of the current Avengers series, Who is Victor Shade from Avengers Inc., and the stories in Batman Failsafe and Superman Space Age.
Okay. Avengers heavy with best storylines, and all for that. Now for one of my favorite ones of this entire bunch here, best sleeper / surprise hit, because we usually get some good ones here. And Murd, we begin with you.
All right. This is one of the easiest for me to come up with, actually. It's The Scarlet Witch ongoing.
There you go. My pick for this comes out of Comixology. Sometimes my sleepers tend to come from there. Mark Sable and Jeremy Hawn's Boxed. And Chris.
Mine is from Image Comics, Dead Romans.
Nice.
All right. Now I know this category is a little tough for some people. I know. One of our longtime listeners and friends mused in his nominations about that he's never quite sure how to approach Best Sleeper. Is this something that was surprised the entire fan community with how well it sold and how popular it was, or just something that surprises the reader personally? And my answer to him is either or both. Approach it any way you want. Personally, I tend to find something that contains elements of both, that is both a surprise hit in terms of sales and just something that surprises me with how much better it is than I thought it was going to.
And if I may, I would also add that for me, I always apply the criteria that I think this is a book that is superb, but maybe it hasn't gotten the attention it should.
Yes.
Essentially. So,
right. Sort of a dark horse.
Yep.
So my choice, there we go. It's The Scarlet Witch, an ongoing series by Steve Orlando with art, I believe, by Sarah Pichelli. And that ran a number of issues from Marvel during 2023. And it's a new status quo for Wanda, in that she's set up a storefront where she runs a little like occult bookstore, basically, and she hangs out there. And she's hired a local hipster as an employee. And installed in the back of this shop is a magical door that she calls The Last Door. And in every issue, this is kind of the central conceit of the whole thing. It's done more or less episodically, which is kind of a refreshing change of pace in these arc-obsessed times. But in each issue, a different character stumbles through the Lost Door. And the Lost Door's magic summons through it a character who has come to the end of his or her rope, who has nowhere else to turn, who has reached a critical turning point in his or her life and needs magical assistance desperately. And so the Lost Door brings these people to Wanda, and she uses her hex powers and her just other sorceress abilities to the fullest of her capability to solve this person's problem. And that's what eats up that issue's plot. And her assistant, her employee at the bookstore, was brought to her through the Lost Door this way. And it's revealed that she accidentally pissed off some mythological warrior women, which is not a good. So that takes a couple issues to resolve. But also Orlando, in addition to bringing us these fun, offbeat, one-off magical stories, he also bounces Wanda off a bunch of people from her past. Again, one of the people who comes through the last door is Vivian Vision, the synthetic daughter of Wanda's ex-husband, The Vision, as seen in Tom King's maxi series, The Vision, a couple of years ago. Also, she gets visits from, on that cover that Ian showed us a moment ago, Hulkling, who is currently known as Emperor Dorek VIII of the Kree-Skrull Empire, who is basically a reincarnated form of one of Wanda's lost. I'm sorry. He is the husband.
Yes.
Of the reincarnated, the Asgardian. Billy Kaplan. That's. It was a reincarnation of one of Wanda's lost children, formerly of the Young Avengers. Also, of course, Quicksilver shows up for one issue, and that's their interactions there is being spun out into a Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver miniseries, also written by Orlando as we speak.
Yep.
So, yeah, this series, it didn't go on for very long, unfortunately, but it's the first ongoing series. No, I was about to say it's the first ongoing series Wanda's ever had. That is not true.
No,
because James Robinson wrote one a couple of years ago.
Indeed.
I recall, but it's still excellent storytelling. It's single issues, but also there's the uniting subplot threads that bind them all together, and it's showing excellent command of Marvel Universe and its lore and its obscurities, which has always been kind of a stock and trade of Steve Orlando's, which leads me to seek out his work, and I was just surprised at how well it all gelled and just how delectable I found each issue in terms of both story and also Sarah Pacelli's beautiful artwork.
Oh, yeah.
Yep, it didn't the buzz didn't get around too much, clearly, because otherwise the series would still be going on. But I'm glad that it's at least spun out into this mini-series in which the Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver face the Wizard, who, for I think the first time in his Marvel Universe history, is actually embracing literal sorcery, as fellow Fantastic Four Doctor Doom did some years ago. So, yeah, it's good ideas from the mind of Steve Orlando for Marvel's resident hex magician. And I'm sorry that it was such a deep sleeper that it didn't get a longer run, but it was great while it lasted. So I'm giving it its love here under this category.
There may very well be a continuation of it as a volume 2 once the miniseries is said and done, or at least that was the scuttlebutt. So hopefully that is the case. Also,
fingers crossed.
I would love it. Murd, the girl who came through, of course, that would be Darcy from the Thor movies. So that's the first time that character has made its way into the comic books. So
wow, I would never have made that connection.
I read it. I totally missed that too. I'm ashamed.
It looked much like Kat Dennings to me for one thing, and I didn't.
Yep.
I guess that character's personality is not distinctive enough that it made an impression on me.
I guess so. Yeah. Because I was surprised when it happened. It was a nice touch to have her in there in one way or another. But you are right. She doesn't look very Kat Dennings-esque, but she's still wearing the same type of hat that Darcy always wore. So that was the giveaway for me.
I suppose there is that.
Yep. All right. So yeah, this one completely had no idea that this existed until I read it. Boxed is the name of this series, and again, it's Mark Sable and Jeremy Hahn. Jeremy Hahn is a fantastic artist to begin with, so anything involving him, I'm interested. But this is, and I'm going to read the description here because it's the best way for me to get about it. It's set in a near future world where an agency called RAID, of course, in typical SHIELD fashion, R.A.I.D.
Radically advanced ideas in destruction?
No. This one is Rapid Response Artificial Intelligence Division.
Oh, okay. So it's a different RAID. There was one in the Union Jack miniseries written by Christos Engage, published back in the mid-2000s, which I just read this summer. And the RAID stood for Radically Advanced Ideas in Destruction at that point. But this is something new.
This is not a Marvel Comics, so this
explains it.
This is exactly. But no,
never mind. I apologize.
Please, by all means. Like it's a very, very well used acronym. So either way, they're tasked with investigating AI suspected of deviating from its original programming. AI that goes rogue is boxed in an underground cavern and isolated from the rest of the world. And when a CDC system called Hippocrates becomes the latest AI to go rogue. Raid Agent, great name for a main character, Frank Savage, is called upon to bring it down. But to do so, he'll have to rekindle his relationship with a counterintelligence AI system called Pandora, which has previously been boxed and caused him much heartbreak and bad times when he was going through it. This could very well easily be made into a movie at some point. It's a well-crafted story. The first collection is all available for anybody who has Amazon Prime or Comixology Unlimited for reading, and I believe it will be in physical form at some point as well. But if you fear for our future as a society due to technology, then boy, oh boy, do I have a comic for you in this box. Because Hippocrates is an AI, I mean, as its name would suggest, that was created for the health industry. And Hippocrates decides that in order to keep people healthy, it has to destroy some people. And that's not a good thing. So, yeah, stuff happens.
Sounds like some high-tech eugenics is going on here.
Most definitely. My favorite part is that our lead character, of course, uses a flip phone, stays off the net as much as possible, and only involves himself when necessary. Kind of drawn to look a little bit like Denzel's kid, which is all the more reason why I feel like this could be a movie at some point, because that might be what they were aiming for. But I was beyond thrilled with this story and what it brought forth. There may be future stories to come. Once they have a full book together, then they'll release book 2 in box. But for now, you can read this full first story digitally. And again, I believe there should be a physical copy coming out at some point. But yeah, I had no idea it existed until I read it. Was very, very happy with what I read. And hopefully now more people know that it exists. So check out Boxed by Mark Sable and Jeremy Hahn.
All right, Dead Romans. So I've mentioned this book on the show in the past. It was a miniseries, 6 issues that started and finished in 2023. Written by Fred Kennedy, magnificent art by Nick Marinkovic, forgive me. The premise is based on Roman history. Now, I will say, if you have at least a basic understanding of the history of the Roman Republic / Empire, you'll get a little bit more out of this, but you don't need to have that to appreciate how good this book is. So basically, the premise is one of the Roman Empire's greatest defeats was the Battle of the Teutoburg Forest in Germany in the year 9, or 9 CE or 9 AD. And in those events, the Roman general was actually betrayed by an auxiliary who was Germanic, who, because he knew Roman tactics so well, was able to lure these 3 legions into a devastating ambush over a couple days. And the book takes that historical premise, and they have the art. The art is breathtaking, as you can see by the page Ian just put up. But it takes some historical figures, the Roman general Varus, Arminius, who is the German who sort of warlord who turns on him, and then it creates some other characters who then intertwined into the events. It's gripping. The attention to historical detail is absolutely stunning in terms of the artwork. They really take you through the battle. But again, through the eyes of different characters, some historical, some that are created for the story. It's a really well done bit of historical fiction in comic form, and I recommend it highly. There's a hardcover out now, which I'll probably get from my library, but a beautiful piece of work. And again, I'm a passionate student of ancient Rome, so it was great to see one of its most sort of famous military sort of incidents or really defeats for Rome put in comic form. Just gripping stuff.
Okay.
Right. Let's see. As for the listeners, there's really only one thing that got more than one nomination. So that gets on the ballot for the listeners, and that is the DC miniseries Peacemaker Tries Hard.
All right. Excellent. I'm sure John Cena would be happy.
Let's see. Other stuff that the listeners mentioned. Let's see. The Space Between, Ghost Rider, Fish Flies from Jeff Lemire, the new Penguin series, which we'll probably get a little more of in the coming days or maybe in 2025. The Disney Villains Scar miniseries from Dynamite, also from Dynamite, Darkwing Duck. We got the Duke series from Image and the Energon universe. We got Birds of Prey on there. We've got The Call, 8 Billion Genies, Transformers, the Alan Scott miniseries, the various Star Trek titles, and Beneath the Trees Where Nobody Sees. I don't know what that is, but it's a fun title to say.
Outstanding.
So there we go. Your nominees for Best Sleeper are Dead Romans, Boxed, Scarlet Witch, and Peacemaker's Dries Heart.
Okay. And onward we go to Best Ongoing Comic. Need not have begun publication in 2023. And Murd, the honor goes to you to get us started.
With one magic word, Shazam!
Nice. Chris?
Once again, it's Nightwing.
Okay. And my best ongoing comic, She-Hulk / Sensational She-Hulk.
Oh, superb. Great choice.
Since it's all basically one continuous series, even if they did relaunch it in the middle.
Yep.
Exactly. Yep.
All right. So, yeah, I mean, my actual, if I'd had my druthers, I probably would have put Batman, Superman, World's Finest in here because that's been consistently great and just drenched in DC Universe history and texture and by a great creative team. But I left that to the listeners who nominated it for me, as we'll see in a moment, and just kind of shifted focus to another series that happens to be from the same creative team and that happens to draw almost as heavily on established lore and that has just got a great spirit of fun about it, and it's truer to the spirit of the early adventures of the original Captain Marvel than you might expect. The first arc involves poor Billy and his alter ego as the Captain, and that's another thing that I love about this series is that Mark Waid is kind of slowly, surreptitiously, subtly walking back certain editorial or executive decisions regarding this character and his identity, and just allowing a historical convention to reassert itself. He hasn't gone so far as to actually come out and call Billy Batson's alter ego Captain Marvel, but he does establish that he's going by the Captain, not Shazam, which is just. I'm not going to beat that drum any further here, but yeah.
I can't help but think of Warren Ellis though when I think of the Captain because.
Captain from the
exactly
next wave. Just fill in the foulest obscene words you can think of, and that's what those little skull symbols stand for.
Exactly.
Nope, it's just the Captain in this case. And so it's Billy, and recent events have, I think it was the Lazarus World miniseries or something like that, have resulted in Billy being the only wielder of the Shazam powers. His whole little family of adopted siblings, except for Mary. She still has powers because she struck a deal with a different pantheon of goddesses. So now there's another example of old-timey Golden Age lore that Mark Waid has reinstituted. Now she gets her powers from goddesses. So her Shazam acronym is different from Billy's. But Billy's having problems of his own with his own Shazam pantheon. His own Shazam elders are up in the Rock of Eternity, having a little contest among themselves to see who can affect the Captain's behavior most strikingly. And each of them they disagree with the way Billy is wielding the power of Shazam, and each of them is taking turns tipping the balance in that particular Shazam elder's influence on the Captain's behavior. The problem is, while they're also giving the Captain extra power, they're causing the Captain to succumb to their weaknesses. And this is really the kind of story that occasionally was told in the Fawcett Golden Age of Captain Marvel. The Shazam elders were sometimes portrayed, and comically, as characters and personalities in their own right, and sometimes problematic personalities. So the Captain's life is made that much more difficult when suddenly, like the arrogance of Solomon, outweighs the wisdom, or when Zeus's interest in the ladies causes the Captain to make it himself. So the Captain has to deal with that in addition to fighting bad guys, and also interacting with monocle-wearing Tyrannosauruses from outer space. Just because, how can you resist that?
Of course.
And also he has to deal with let's see, a delegation from Gorilla City running afoul of the Queen Bee and the old Doom Patrol villain Garguax of Xerox 13. It's just sampling lovingly but semi-randomly from DC Universe lore and just combining it all together into a very tasty salad for our consumption. And it's Wade and it's Dan Mora, and it's one of my favorite characters in all of comics, and it works. It works very well. I'm kind of glad that Mark Waid has walked back some other things that have been done with the character recently. I mean, it's that Billy's extended family is still around. They don't need to have powers in their own like color coordinated Captain Marvel costumes. For the character to be interesting. We still got Billy, we still got Mary, and something tells me that the rest of the family will get their Shazam powers back soon enough. I get the feeling that the incoming new creative team will probably take care of that. But I've enjoyed just seeing Wade write Billy and the Shazam elders and Mary, and just also the fact that at the end of that arc I was mentioning with the Shazam elders competing with each other for control of the captain ends up with a greater share of the wisdom of Solomon that he'd had access to recently. So he's not going to be acting quite so much like a stupid kid.
Okay.
Going forward, which is a problem I've had with the movie's take on the character. I mean, it made him funny for the big screen and for a mass audience, but back in the comics, I'd prefer my original Captain Marvel behave more like an adult, and Wade is giving that back to us along with a few other things. So just quality product by a great creative team. So Shazam will stand on this ballot alongside another work of the same creative team.
Fair enough.
All right, I'm not going to belabor the point because I've talked about Nightwing so much, including last year. I just think it's one of the best synthesis of writer and artist. Tom Taylor just knows Dick Grayson inside and out, and especially understands the dynamic between him and Barbara, and really exploring their relationship wonderfully. Plus, you've got a dog now, Bitewing. I mean, you can't beat that. Redondo is no longer really doing interiors much, but his covers remain just phenomenal. I mean, they just pop off the stand every month when you see them. Interior art is always has excellent artists there as well, the sort of rotating cast. It's a comic that especially appreciates that Dick Grayson is now an adult, that he's his own man, that he's capable on his own just as much as Bruce Wayne is. But also casts him again because he's a more approachable and for lack of a better term, more human character, because he's not Bruce. He's a very different person, and he's developed into a very different person. And Tom Taylor really I think really establishes that. Just month after month, there's just, for me, no better book. So that's my pick.
It's a damn good choice. And yeah, you're right. It does continue to be one of the best books that DC puts out month after month. Yeah. Absolutely. She-Hulk, for me, it's been a long time since Dan Slott's run where I feel like She-Hulk has been this good.
It's superb.
It's month after month. It's fun.
It's really fun.
It no matter who comes in, whether it be Nightcrawler trying to get her to become the official lawyer of Krakoa, whether it be Awesome Andy starting to date Mallory Book, whether it be new goings on with Jack of Hearts and She-Hulk. The book just continues to be a gem. And even with the relaunch of Sensational She-Hulk, they basically just did that for sales. It's still the same book. It's still pretty much the same creative team. The artist changed a little bit, but Rainbow Rowell's still on it, and she's still doing what she does best, and that's telling compelling, enjoyable superhero comic books. And Jen Walters deserves that from her books. And she's getting it in spades. So that's my best ongoing comic. No question about it.
I didn't realize Mallory and Awesome Andy had finally gotten together.
Yep. Yeah. That's happened, and Andy just continues to be one of the best damn parts of the entire book, in and out, no questions asked. And what say the listeners?
Okay, well, I've kind of already spilled the beans on that one. Their choice by the biggest margin of just about anything in this year's nominations process is Batman and Superman World's Finest.
Well deserved. Yep.
And this time there actually is a runner-up, and that is Something is Killing the Children.
You got to say it twice, man. Good for you. Good for you.
I feel blessed. Let's see. So some other stuff that got nominated: the Green Lantern series, Undiscovered Country, New Burn, World Tree, Batgirls, plural, Action Comics, Rogue Sun, Amazing Spider-Man, Transformers, as brought to us by Daniel Warren Johnson, Batman, Wolverine, and that's it.
Okay.
All right. So there we go. The nominees for Best Ongoing Comic, whether it began in 2023 or not, are Nightwing, She-Hulk, sensational or otherwise, Shazam, and Batman Superman World's Finest. Okay. And we are a little over halfway home here.
Indeed, as we make it to Best Graphic Album, which could be a original graphic novel or a collection. And I get to nominate something that was all over last year's best ofs, and the collection came out in 2023, so it's not like I'm even, I know it doesn't have to be 2023, but it is Do a Powerbomb by Daniel Warren Johnson is my choice.
Do it one more time.
Indeed. Chris.
Night Fever by Brubaker and Phillips.
This is me tapping you on the shoulder, gentlemen.
Uh-oh.
You have managed to choose both of the readers' nominees.
Wow.
But one of you, whichever one feels able, be so gracious as to step aside and nominate something else.
I can nominate something else.
Okay.
Okay. Very good. Very
All
good.
right. Excellent.
Let me grab it, actually.
Okay. All right. Well, while he does so, Murd, your choice.
I'm gonna steal Chris's move here. From Ahoy Comics, Serial Sweet Darkness.
Oh my God, that's beautiful. I didn't know that existed. I'm very, very glad I know that existed.
I'll tell you more about it shortly, Ian. But first, Chris.
There you go. Good choice.
So, Gallery Edition, Spider-Man Blue, Loeb and Sale. Nice. Beautiful.
Well worth it. Well worth
it.
All right, Do a Powerbomb. Like I said, it was all over last year's best ofs and well deserved. I got it as a gift, and it blew my socks off. Dan Warren Johnson tells a story that whether you're a fan of wrestling or whether you're just a fan of good storytelling, you would thoroughly enjoy. It manages to marry like anime and manga sensibilities with WWE, with just typical battle comics, with the heartbreak of losing a mother and what you do afterwards, with just straight up gorgeous artwork. I mean, just everything about it works. And I was blown away by it. I'm thrilled that it's at least as of now, a one and done story that just gets to the point and makes it work in the amount of issues that it has. And it's a crown jewel of my entire collection right now. Do a Powerbomb is absolutely worth every bit of praise that it was given. Outside of here and inside of here had to be my pick for best graphic album. No question about it.
All right. I talked about this when it came out. I've become such a fan of the Marvel Gallery edition. I just got Daredevil Born Again a few months ago as well. But the presentation of this story, which is a Spider-Man story I've loved since it came out however many years ago, but the way they capture it in the gallery format, it's so breathtaking. And just the production value of this book, the presentation, it's well worth the $50 before whatever discount you get from whatever vendor. But this is a beauty. Like when I think about, why it's worth buying like a graphic novel, like this is what I think of. Like this is a beautiful package, a beautiful presentation of a classic story. So Spider-Man Blue, the Gallery Edition.
Excellent.
Well chosen, Chris.
Thanks, brother.
It's not just the message, but the medium that often counts when one chooses a best graphic album, and that's That's all points for both for presentation and for the original story.
And especially not having Sale with us anymore, his artwork deserves as good a presentation as you can possibly present.
And for example, I ordered the Captain America White Gallery edition, which I'm looking forward to because I never actually finished reading that story. So I'm excited about that.
Nice.
Yep, it's true. I never got past the Zero issue that was published and then followed by nothing for about a decade.
Yeah.
All right. Now, every once in a while, a comic book story comes along that just kind of feels like it was tailor-made for you as a reader. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We've all seen those things. This is absolutely like it is as if it were created with Adam Murdo in mind.
Wow.
It's called Cereal, Cereal, and it's given the subtitle Sweet Darkness for this collected edition. And it was originally serialized in the back pages of the Ahoy Comics horror anthology.
God, he's enjoying this.
Edgar Allan Poe, Snifter of Blood. And in later volumes, Snifter of Terror, Snifter of Death. It's a snifter of something every time. And in the back pages, Mark Russell, writer, and Peter Snyberg of Starman fame gave to us a collection of short stories. And it's basically, it's gothic horror melodrama. It's like Dark Shadows, but with cereal mascots. So it's.
I think this sounds like a book Pants would also love.
Yes,
he might. Yeah. And it's we got the Marquis de Coco instead of Count Chocula. There's the Baron Frankencherry instead of Frankenberry, and his brother Bo Cherry, who becomes a ghost at some point. You know, Boo Berry. And the character in the lower right is supposed to be the Cookie Wizard, I think. So just virtually any beloved advertising mascot of yesteryear that ever graced a child's breakfast table is between a certain framework of decades anyway. It's included herein. We've got all the classic monsters, of course, including Fruit Brute. I don't think Mark Russell went so far as to include Fruity Yummy Mummy, since that didn't come until like the late 80s. Might have been a little out of his frame of reference. But still, it's just honey dripping with glorious wordplay and oblique references to breakfast cereal culture. And it's got love and pathos. It's got monsters and mayhem and regicide, and it's all... It's a part of this reader's complete breakfast through and through. And it was hard for me sometimes to track down the individual issues in which these disparate stories appeared, but there is a common story thread running through all of it. And this collected edition, which came out in October of 2023, just in time for Halloween, it includes 3 all-new, never-before-seen chapters that brings the story to a conclusion.
Nice.
And what company published this, Mert?
This was Ahoy Comics.
Ahoy, okay.
Which has put out some damn fine concepts since its inception a few years ago. This is the same company that brings us the Wrong Earth from Tom Pyre and Jamal Igle. Yep. So this collection, I mean, I do like to say that when you're choosing a nominee for Best Graphic Album, it should be not only the story contained therein, but also just does it provide a little bit extra. And in this case, there's 3 chapters worth of bonus content never before serialized. So that. I mean, if I didn't love the story enough, just for it on its own merits, the fact that this collection brings the story to a close, that seals it. It's half an original graphic novel. I didn't even write anything else down on my paper for this. It was Cereal, Sweet Darkness all the way.
Yeah.
Murd, outstanding.
I love the I had it up on the screen there a minute ago. Pops Tarts is a nice a nice take there. Nicely done.
Yep, it's the name of a bordello, you see. So there you go. Cereal, Sweet Darkness. Best to you each morning.
Fantastic.
All right. Now, as I mentioned before, the listeners had a tie for 2 choices, and you guys basically took both of them. But Chris was nice enough to step aside. So, Ian, you have claimed Do a Powerbomb as your very own. The other listener choice was Night Fever. So, yes. Chris, if you'd like to say a few words about that, since clearly you're fond of it as well.
It's Brubaker and Phillips doing it. I mean, their productivity is amazing. I mean, they keep putting stuff out, but it's the quality never suffers. It's an OGN. The best they can say is think of Midlife Crisis meets Eyes Wide Shut. And, creepy, deeply disturbing. It's about a man who is traveling in a foreign city, and he comes upon some he encounters this a certain individual, leads him on a very strange and sordid path. And, you know, I'll just kind of leave it there. If you know those creators, I've been reading about them for years. You know, for me, that's the best creative. They still remain the best creative team in comics. And Night Fever is another one of their most outstanding offers. So I'm so glad it was selected.
Excellent.
All right. So a good deal of accord here between hosts and listeners in this category anyway. And so the choices, you know, the final nominees for Best Graphic Album are Spider-Man Blue Gallery Edition, Duo Powerbomb, the Collected Edition, Serial Sweet Darkness, and Night Fever.
Okay. All right. And that brings us on to the people categories as we begin with Best Writer. And let's see. Chris, you can go ahead and start us off, sir.
It's Tom King. It's not even a question for me.
Okay. Murd.
I'm going to say Al Ewing.
Okay.
Great.
That was going to be my pick. So instead, let's roll with Tom Taylor.
All right.
God, we're lucky to be comic book readers right now.
Indeed.
So I'm just going to start listing them, okay? Gotham City Year One, Wonder Woman, Penguin, of Human Target.
Danger Street.
Those are Danger Street. Thank you. I mean, those are you have 5 different examples there, all different genres, and he masters all of them.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Gotham City Year One is great noir. He's, you know, really revisiting the essence of Wonder Woman, but again, taking it in a new direction. Human Target, I've already effused about profusely for so long. Penguin, which I just started actually reading Penguin now because I got like the first 6. I just sat down to start reading them. Wow. King is so good at taking, you know, a character like the Penguin, and again, mark of a great writer, doesn't really change anything about the essence of the character, but just puts it provides a new context and gets you to approach the character in ways you hadn't thought of before. I mean, to me, he's the most dynamic and thrilling writer in comics right now. And the fact that he can master all these different genres simultaneously, essentially, just speaks volumes for how we're all very lucky to have Tom as a writer in this medium we all love.
Absolutely.
Hear, hear.
And Al Ewing, sir.
Al Ewing, yep. Well, when we get to the People Awards, as you call them, and when I come up with my nominee, I try to find a writer that intersects... I'm not sure if this is even a proper word, but prolificity, this high volume of work, prolificness, if you will, with high quality. And as Chris points out, there's really few better choices to make than Tom King in that regard. But Al Ewing has got some significant hits this year, too. He wrote that The Wasp miniseries this year, which was enjoyable. Mm-hmm. He wrote Avengers, Inc., which I loved. And he has gotten off to a great start with Immortal Thor, which was my choice for best new series of the year. So we all know what he can do, and he's doing it he did it to a high degree in 2023. So I thought he just deserved to be on here. Plus, the listeners mentioned a few other people that I also might have nominated otherwise. So Al Ewing profits by default.
Excellent. And Tom Taylor continues to be one of DC's best writers. In a lot of ways, he has been propelled to the upper echelon of DC itself, because the Titans is the Justice League right now. So the premier team book is being written by Tom Taylor. Not to mention the fact that he continues to write Nightwing, Dynamite, you know, month in and month out. His work on you know, the Son of Superman and stuff like that, it continues.
That was excellent.
Continues to be outstanding.
Yeah.
And yeah, he's a wonderful writer. He is not Tom King. He is Tom Taylor. As New York Comic Con, they made fun of it. Tom King came up and started talking for a little bit, and then Tom Taylor came up to shoo him off as he was one of the keynote speakers at one of the events that I was at. yeah, it's just he's a rollicking good time of a writer, and everything he puts out is gold. So Tom Taylor deserves my my pick.
All great selections, fellas.
And we're not done yet, because the listeners have given us a 3-way tie for Best Writer. And they present to us James Tynion IV, Jeff Lemire, and Mark Waid.
Okay.
So all three of them
that is a brutal choice to make. Holy mackerel.
Good luck, voters.
Wow.
Oh, man. Wow. Okay.
Now, tied for runner-up in the reader's estimation, or listener's estimation, is Tom King and Josh Williamson. Other
choice,
people who got some nominations, Daniel Warren Johnson. Let's see, Tom Taylor was nominated here and there. And Melissa Flores, Ed Brubaker, and Benjamin Percy. He's been doing work with Ghost Rider and Wolverine that people have been enjoying. And I forgot to mention other things that were nominated for Best Graphic Album. We've got the collection of Human Target, Volume 2, Wolverine by Ben Percy, Volume 5, Where the Body Was, the War
that's
World
the other
Sucks.
Brubaker Phillips one, yep.
Doomsday with My Dog, Volume 1. Sounds a little like a manga. I don't know if it is. Damn Them All! I don't know what that is, but it's a good title. Let's see, Superman Space Age, the collection,
beautiful.
Clementine Volume 2, and Black and White, The Rise and Fall of Bobby Fischer, the chess comic.
Wow. You are right, by the way. Doomsday with My Dog is indeed a manga, so kind of a given with a name like that, quite frankly.
Yeah. Okay, so here we go. Here are your 6 sluggers for Best Writer: Tom King, Tom Taylor, Al Ewing, James Tynion the Fourth, Jeff Lemire, and Mark Waid.
Whew.
Wow, that is a murderer's row. Holy mackerel.
Fantastic. God. Yep. I love it when that happens, especially with Best Writer, because that's going to be a tough candidate right there. Yep. Good choice.
Yep. Every vote is going to count in that category. I can see that coming.
Yes, indeed. All right. And let's move over to Best Artist. And I will start us off. I said Tom Taylor, so I might as well go with his compatriot on Titans, Nicholas Scott.
Great choice.
All right.
Go ahead, Murd.
Yep.
Oh, I'm upset. Okay. I'm going to say Chris Burnham.
Nice.
Oh, very nice.
Okay.
All right. It's the last year, but it's Greg Smallwood again.
Don't worry. You'll find a way to say him again next year. I'm sure of it. So when you talk about a quintessential superhero artist, you have to have Nicholas Scott's name in that running.
Yeah.
One of the cleanest lines you could possibly have.
Yeah.
And especially when you stick her on a team book where she gets to draw so many different variations. She gets to draw Beast Boy's transformations now. Each one of her characters has a distinctly different look, because one of my biggest pet peeves in comics is when everybody looks the same. You know, when you draw a 13-year-old, they should look 13, not 18. And Nicholas Scott knows how to draw kids, adults, the gambit. And this has been a fantastic year for her. She's gotten to shine, and she continues to be one of my favorite artists, and that has not changed in 2023. So here's to Nicholas Scott, and here's to continuing to enjoy her work wherever it may lead. And right now it's Titans, and it's damn good stuff. So there we go.
It really is.
Yep.
Yep. Great choice, Ian. Yep. Actually, I had kind of a short list here of people whom I might nominate, and Nicholas Scott was on it. Okay. I also thought about Alan Davis, because he did that great Avengers miniseries with Paul Levitz.
Yep.
He's getting up there in years. Who knows how many more chances we'll get to nominate him for anything. I thought about Shaky Kane, who is a kind of a wonky indie artist that I enjoy. Does some things for Image and Oni. But I settled on Chris Burnham. Well, he's a guy whom we knew back when.
Oh yeah.
Right? But that exactly. See, Ian just put up an image from the cover image to Unstoppable Doom Patrol #2, which is a great, strange miniseries. It did well enough that I think they actually increased its issue run from 6 to 7, like on the fly.
Yep.
written by Dennis Culver with art by the aforementioned Mr. Burnham. It's a good, strange romp, and Chris Burnham's artwork on that was just gripping. It's got kind of a Frank Quitely but smoother look to it, and
well put.
It's improved quite a bit, actually, in the years since we first got to know him. I remember we hung out with him for a bit at a Pittsburgh convention in the early days of CGS. I've still got a bizarro sketch that I got from him from that occasion. And he's come up quite a bit in the world since then, and his art has improved. And it's basically, I just wanted to give a tip of the cap to that miniseries because, once again, we're trying to acknowledge as many different comics that we enjoyed in 2023 as possible. And so I'm going to fet Unstoppable Doom Patrol by nominating its artist in this category.
Excellent choice. Yep, and that's a series that I know got plenty of critical acclaim while it was out. That I also need to catch up on because I think, if I remember correctly, I read the first issue of that and thoroughly enjoyed it. But I have to read the following 6 because, as you said, it was extended for one more. So, yep, very, very good stuff.
All right, so once again, because basically every year Human Target has been on the ballot, I choose Greg Smallwood because, and the miniseries into this year. So I'm done after this year. I promise the audience. But the achievement of artwork in that story, I mean, the way he renders the world of the characters in that particular miniseries, this almost this washed out like 1950s vibe in some ways, the clothes they're wearing, the motel rooms they're staying in. Plus, he's coloring the whole thing and inking it as well. Thank you, Ian. This is, for me, some of the most exciting artwork I've seen in years in the comic book.
Yeah.
And the synthesis of the art with the story King is scripting is so seamless. Like this, the art is so evocative of the noirish world that Christopher Chance is navigating. This again, you can say it's hyperbolic. This is a masterpiece on every level, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
And I think when we look back on comics of this decade, this is going to be way, way, way up there. So he's my choice again for best artist.
It's an excellent choice. Yep. And we promise it'll be someone different next year. Unless he somehow manages to draw something else, in which case it might be him again.
Certainly not beyond the realm of possibility.
Yep. All right. Excellent. And the listeners?
The listeners were pretty emphatic in their choice in this category, and it's Dan Mora.
Mm-hmm. Which is the exact reason I didn't pick Dan Mora, because I had a feeling it would be them. So, yep.
Because once again, volume intersects quality, and he drew the Batman Superman World's Finest, and somehow also drew Shazam, also with Mark Waid at the same time.
Oh my God, yeah, yep.
So that's a good choice on the listeners' part. The runner-up for the listeners was Bruno Redondo, which also would have been a good choice. I think we all agree.
Yep.
Other people who got some nominations: Sean Phillips.
Great.
Andrea Sorrentino, Jorge Fornes, who was the artist on Danger Street, Matea de Ulis, Jorge Jimenez, Daniel Samper, Jason Sean Alexander, Art Germ, Corey Smith, and at least one person, in addition to Chris, nominated Greg Smallwood once again.
There you go. All right.
So there you go. Your nominees for Best Artist: Greg Smallwood, Nicola Scott, Chris Burnham, Dan Mora.
Onward we go. We got 4 more left here. Best writer/artist. Someone who is the best of both worlds, who can do both. And Mr. Murdo, over to you.
My choice this year is Sean Gordon Murphy.
Okay. Chris.
As with every year, as long as he's publishing, it's Terry Moore.
And my choice, Dan Warren Johnson.
All right. Well, Sean Gordon Murphy, he's the one who gave us that Plot Holes miniseries I mentioned all the way back at the New Hero or Hero Team category. And so he both wrote and drew that. It's entirely a product of his imagination. He actually crossed it over with his, well, very briefly for one panel, with his punk rock Jesus concept. There's kind of a stealth guest appearance by Punk Rock Jesus in the final issue of the miniseries. Yeah, it's good imaginative stuff. But I also am kind of influenced here probably beyond the bounds of acceptability, but by his Zorro Man of the Dead.
Oh, I just read that. So good.
Oh,
wow. Yeah. Really good.
It is a really good take.
Look forward to talking about it more.
Good way to bring him into the modern day. But of course, that's a 2024 publication. So that really shouldn't be influencing my decision, but I'm kind of letting it factor in anyway. And also the fact that I would just like to see Daniel Warren Johnson and Sean Gordon Murphy on the same ballot at the same time. I do have a tendency to get them mixed up. Hopefully this will help with that.
Yes.
As I'm forced to consider the two of them and their work separately but simultaneously.
They have 3 names and they can both write and draw.
Yes and yes.
Yeah. Chris.
So this is the one category I mentioned before the show that I thought I might not have a selection for, but I thought, wait a minute, Parker Girls finished in 2023. And to me, as I say every year, Terry Moore is one of the living masters of the medium. All you have to do is look at the body of work he's produced, look at the way he draws human beings, look at the way he can capture relationships, the way he captures facial expressions with just one stroke of a pen. I mean, to me, he is one of the all-time masters of this medium. I mean, I'm not exaggerating when I say all-time. And the Parker Girls which was an offshoot of Strangers in Paradise. Not to go too much into it because I'm going to spoil it. Basically, it's the part of Kachu's life where she was essentially involved in espionage as part of this organization that wielded a lot of influence, sort of in the corridors of power. And the book is all about how she's kind of drawn back into that life and how she has to navigate this adventure she's involved in, for lack of a better term. And it's Terry Moore telling a story when really nobody does it better. Nobody does it better. So that's my selection.
Outstanding choice as always. And Dan Warren Johnson, not only for Do a Powerbomb, but for amazing artwork like this.
Wow.
For Transformers, you can't have a better choice than him. He is such a multifaceted, multi-tooled individual. And even now, with the Transformers book, I know he's stepping back from artwork, at least for a little while, and continuing to write it. But he's great. He's fantastic in every single thing that he puts out there. And had to have my choice for best writer artist because he damn well deserves it.
Well, I tell you, Ian, the listeners absolutely agree with you because in the biggest landslide of this stage of the awards process, Daniel Warren Johnson was their choice too. But the good news is there's another person that they liked enough to nominate more than once, and that person will now take the listener's spot on the ballot, and that is Zoe Thorogood.
Okay. Good choice.
So that will be the official listener's choice. Other people who got some nods, Zyman Kodransky, Tilly Walden, Sean Gordon Murphy was nominated by somebody other than me. Wes Craig, Chip Zdarsky, certainly a worthy choice there.
Oh, yes.
Stephen Mooney, and Eric. Oh, there was one nod for Terry Moore also. Eric Larson is also in there. And that's pretty much everything. But it's more Daniel Warren Johnson than anything else.
Okay.
So there you go. The best writer-artist nominees for this year are Terry Moore, Dan Warren Johnson, Sean Gordon Murphy, and Zoe Thorogood.
Fantastic. When we go to best color artist, I will start things off with Jordi Belair.
I'll go next. Jose Villarroba.
Okay.
And I'm going to choose Kelly Fitzpatrick.
All right. Yeah, Jordi Belair, especially for work on Birds of Prey this year. Birds of Prey does a good job of using a whole bunch of pastels in the process, like colors you wouldn't normally expect to find in a action superhero book, and still manages to make it pop. And I really, really appreciate that from an artist when that manages to be pulled off. And even here with just the use of shading and the use of different colored skin tones you would expect, it really just makes the artwork pop in so many different ways. I love the building colors, just the style that's thrown in there. And Jordi Belair makes it work. So with the assistance of their work, it really does just make it happen. So Jordi Belair had to be my choice.
All right, so Jose Villarruba, forgive me if I mispronounced the name, sir, is the colorist on the first colorist on the Conan comic, the new Conan book. I'm just going to hold up a 2-page spread.
Mm-hmm. Oh, wow.
Do I really need to say anything else? This coloring in this book is stunning. It's beautifully is compatible with the De La Torre art and inking. This is some of the most stunning coloring I've seen in a comic in recent years, in my experience. Just gobsmack beautiful. So
yeah, great choice.
Mert, go ahead.
All right. Kelly Fitzpatrick, a little bit of an under the radar choice for me. I know she was the colorist on an Image miniseries called Star Signs. Let's see, which was written by Saladin Ahmed with art by one Megan Levins. And I had a few other colorists in mind that I could have nominated this year. I mean, I was thinking of Annette Kwok, who laid color over the line work of Nicola Scott on Titans. And there's old standbys like Dave Stewart and Matt Hollingsworth and Matt Wilson. But what swayed me to actually put Kelly Fitzpatrick's name on the ballot here is that I was impressed by the visual dimension of this book from the first promo art I saw in previews. It immediately gave me like a Jamie McKelvey on Wicked and the Divine vibe when I looked at it. But when I actually got the comic in my hand and looked at the artwork closely, I discovered that much of what was impressing me about it was not so much the actual line work of Megan Levins, the artist, but the colors of Kelly Fitzpatrick laid over it. And Ian just put up an
example. Beautiful.
Yes. Star Signs is about a group of 12 people, each of whom gains certain celestial superpowers from the zodiac sign of their birth. And so there's lots of cosmic energy effects, and
this is right up your alley, Murd. Look at this.
Yep. I do agree, Chris. I mean, the series technically hasn't concluded yet. There's still an issue or two of it left to come out, and I don't think we've seen my star sign Capricorn even introduced yet. So I'm held in suspense by that. But it's just the fact that Kelly Fitzpatrick's colors elevated the quality of the artwork, or at least my appreciation of the quality of the artwork, as much as it did. That's what led me to put her name down. And she's been around the industry for a few years now. She's done projects for Image, for Boom, but this is the first time I think I've really noticed how good she is, or how much she has brought to a particular project. She just added a little extra oomph to this miniseries, which was already interesting in and of itself. And Megan Levins' artwork is pretty darn good in and of itself, but the color makes it that much better. In fact, I think I appreciate the color even more than I do the line work. And whenever that's the case, it seems like the colorist deserves a little extra recognition. And this is my little way of doing that. So, Ms. Fitzpatrick, my hat is off to you.
Absolutely. Okay.
All right. And so that brings us to the listener's choice. And winning handily in the winner's estimation is Tamra Bonvillain. It's a cool word to say, a cool name to say.
One of my favorite names in comics to say, quite frankly. So, yeah.
Yep. So that was a pretty big margin for her there. The runner-up then would have been a two-way tie between Ian's choice, Jordi Belair, and Trish Mulvihill.
Okay.
Some other colorists getting some nominations: Adriano Lucas, Mike Spicer, Jacob Phillips, of course. Raul Angulo, Romulo Fajardo Jr., Dave McCaig, and Brian Valenza. But the ones that are actually appearing on the ballot for Best Color Artist are Jose Villarrubia, Jordi Belair, Kelly Fitzpatrick, and Tamra Bonvillain.
There you go.
All right, our penultimate category.
Indeed. We go to Best Letterer. Chris, start us off.
I'm based this on Gotham City Year One again, Clayton Cowles.
Good choice. Murd.
Okay. And I'm going with Rob Lee.
Okay. And I'm going with Tom Napolitano.
All right. So granted, I'm not don't have the best eye for lettering, I admit, but what I liked about this work is that the book is from Slam Bradley's perspective. He's telling you the story in classic hard-boiled noir fashion. So Cal's, it's hard to see here, but he does like the typewriter type font when Slam is telling you the story, which then is in contrast to the actual dialogue. So you're getting a variety of lettering, and it just for me, whenever they switch it up and they use a font to sort of emphasize one aspect of the narrative, it just makes the story that's much more enriching to read and enjoy. So really enjoyed the lettering in this book, Gotham City Year One. So that's why I chose Clayton Cowles.
Yep, excellent choice.
And Clayton Cowles was one of two names on my list of potential nominees here. I noticed his strong work not only in Gotham Year One, but in almost everything else Tom King did this year, actually, plus a few titles beyond on the Marvel side of things. I think he might have lettered some Star Wars comics or something. But Rob Lee, I mean, if Clayton Cowles was Tom King's letterer of choice, Rob Lee appears to be Jeff Johns'. And he lettered all the different things that Jeff Johns was doing in the past years. That includes Stargirl and the Lost Children. So we got to apply the otherworldly letter character effects for people like the Childminder and her various lost children prisoners. And also the stuff that Johns was doing over at Image, the new like Junkyard Joe and the new Geiger series, all the stuff that's coming out under the umbrella of the new publishing sub-imprint, the name of which I cannot remember at the moment, but it's the new thing that Johns and his fellow writers are putting together over there at Image. It's a new line of books that are going to be coming out this year, beginning with the stuff that Johns has been doing. I can tell that Ian, producer man, is already on it. Fill in the gaps in my memory here. But anyway, Rob Lee was responsible for all of that, and volume plus quality equals nomination. And Clayton Cowles has already been spoken for, so Rob Lee it shall be for me.
Fair enough. All right. So for me, Tom Napolitano, especially for work on Outsiders, deserves it. Sometimes it's the simple stuff. Like for instance, the way that we get introduced to Challengers of the Unknown in issue 2. Just the font choice for the reveal of the Challengers of the Unknown, and following it up with, of course, these effing guys. Just absolutely brings it home. And there's a whole bunch of like alien fonts that are throughout Outsiders, and just some really, really good lettering choices overall that really bring the book home. And Napolitano is a master at the craft. He's been around for years, and it's pretty easy to give him my vote. So that's why he is my pick for best letterer.
And as for the listeners, we had a two-way tie again. But it was between Clayton Cowles, which Chris has claimed for his own, and one other letterer. And it's my turn to apologize in advance if I mangle the pronunciation here, but the listener's nominee for best letterer is going to be Hassan Otsmane Elhou. That's Elhaou.
It's a valiant effort, Murd.
It's best I could manage, Chris. So anyway, that's on the ballot, and let's see. Other people who are nominated, this is frequently the most often skipped category in a given year's nominations. So there's a whole lot of blanks towards the back half of my spreadsheet here, but we also have Ed Dukeshire, Wes Abbott, Pat Brosseau, Russ Wooten, and Becca Carey, Joe Caramagna, and of course, Crank.
Nice.
All right.
But the official nominees are going to be Clayton Cowles, Tom Napolitano, Rob Lee, that's Leigh, incidentally, and Hassan Otsmane Elhou.
Okay.
All right. The final category.
Indeed. On we are to the breakthrough talent that isn't Tom King of 2023. As a reminder, cannot have won the award previously. Yes. Cannot break through twice. We make that.
And I did do a little bit of research into at least the last 5 years worth of winners. So I don't think we're going to have a replication here.
Fair enough.
Okay. I think it's my turn to go first.
Go right ahead.
I came up with the name Tim Sheridan.
Excellent. I am going to go with Leonardo Romero.
And my selection is Roberto De La Torre.
Excellent.
Mm-hmm. Yep, this category is always a tricky one for the listeners and also for us because it's hard to define exactly when a creator really breaks through in this industry because they can often be doing published work for years before people take notice. And in this case, it's kind of subjective to the person making the nomination as to when this person's work catches his or her eye for the first time. And Tim Sheridan, I did a little bit of research this afternoon and discovered that he has published a few things mostly through DC in the past, and he's got a background writing for Hollywood. I think he wrote or co-wrote the animated adaptation of Batman: The Long Halloween, for example, and he wrote a bunch of issues of the Future State ongoing, like maybe 2 years ago. But what attracted my attention this year was his script for the Alan Scott Green Lantern miniseries as part of the New Golden Age initiative at DC, and it's telling retelling through the retroactive lens of the revelation recently that Alan Scott is in fact gay and always has been. So it's retelling the early days of Alan Scott, the days leading up to his acquiring his power ring, just filtered through his experiences as a gay man in the late 30s and early 1940s. And it's some of the things he experiences are a little bit brutal. I mean, he voluntarily commits himself to Arkham Asylum at one point because in those days, homosexuality was still classified as a mental illness. And what he experiences there within those asylum walls, I mean, he meets a character named, his name was Billings, and he actually is a factor in the early Golden Age story, or at least one of the early Golden Age stories of Green Lantern. It tells how the ancient Chinese lantern that became Alan Scott's power battery was refashioned into a modern train lantern. Turns out it's this guy, Mr. Billings, or Billy, as he calls himself. It turns out that he is also gay, and he kind of becomes like a mentor and friend to Alan Scott while the two of them are in the asylum together. And he tragically he undergoes painful behavior modification therapy. I think they basically lobotomize him and send him on his merry way. So it's just one of several nuggets of tragedy that befall the young Alan Scott. And
Murd, what's the exact name of this miniseries?
I believe it's called Alan Scott: Green Lantern.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ian, I want to applaud you on the first page you chose, the J. Edgar Hoover page, because if you studied the actual Hoover, that's totally something he probably would have done.
Oh, absolutely.
To use that kind of information. More interesting enough, Hoover himself was probably gay.
Yeah.
So, which only adds to the sort of the pathos and irony of the scene. Well done.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. And the scripting was well done by Tim Sheridan, who I think I've learned donated a portion of the proceeds to GLAAD or some other anti-gay defamation charity. So he's done published comic work before, but this is the first story of his that I've picked up, and I was really impressed. So he's broken through this year as far as I'm concerned. Yeah. So I'm slotting him right in under my name for this category.
I got to meet Tim for a couple minutes at New York Comic Con when he was walking around with Jeremy Adams on the floor, and he seemed like an absolutely lovely human being. And yeah, this book has gotten very good acclaim, and I can understand why. Yeah, absolutely. All right, Leonardo Romero from me, Birds of Prey. Period. He's done stuff before this. He's done some Batman stuff. He's done some other stuff for DC. He has a very Bernard Chang style to his artwork. And I mean that absolutely fitting, but nobody uses blank space quite like the way that Romero does, because not every panel has to be filled, but just enough to get the action across. And he utilizes that in spades. You see that here with this action, between Zealot and Diana, and every single issue, it's carried by the writing, but it's carried even further by the artwork because it's just so unique and distinct. And I can easily see Leonardo Romero having a big career off the
Man, that is a
a
dynamic page you've chosen too.
It really is. So yeah, he thrilled me with the artwork that he brought to the table, and that's why I feel like he's definitely broken through for me, because when I see his name in a book, I'm sure as hell going to read it from this point forward. So absolutely.
All right, so for me, I mentioned this before. So Roberto de la Torre, I mean, he hasn't appeared from whole cloth. He's done other work, but this is my first experience with his work. And what he's done on the new version of Conan the Barbarian from Titan Comics, which I mentioned before, again, it's both a tribute to the great Big John Buscema, one of the all-time Conan masters, but it's very much his own work at the same time. The art is so gorgeous. I put some pages up before. I was actually moved by this book. Like it's rare that a comic so captures for me the essence of why I love this medium, and Conan does. Like, look at this. I mean, this is absolutely stunning work, very much in the tradition of a Hal Foster, of a John Buscema. It is just gorgeous. And anyone who appreciates comic book art, this is a master class right here. So Roberto de la Torre is very much my breakthrough selection for this year.
Yeah, well worth it. I mean, it's some damn fine artwork.
Yep.
Totally see the Hal Foster comparison.
Yep. Well, Murd, take us out.
All right. Well, from the listeners, their nominee this year, and this is his second time being nominated in this category, Daniel Warren Johnson.
Okay.
He appeared on the ballot for Breakthrough Talent of 2019, but he did not win that year. He was beaten out by Marjorie Liu of Monstrous.
Okay.
Here he is. 5 years later, he's taken a second run at the title. Has he finally broken through for real? Only you, the voting public, can decide.
Yeah, I'm thinking this might be the year, quite frankly, with the stuff that he's done on Transformers, getting so much attention. It may very well be his year, but he has some excellent competition. So who knows?
This is true.
Yep.
Now let's see. The listeners' runner-up would have been Jacob Phillips, by the way.
Great choice.
And, other people who got some nods here: Tilly Walden. Let's see, Joshua Williamson, Leonardo Romero. Got one nomination from the listeners. Melissa Flores, Zoe Thorogood, Roberto de la Torre also got one nod from the listeners. Jenny Frisson, Joshua Cassara, and Danny Earls. Oh, and actually, yeah, and one person also said Tim Sheridan. So. At least one listener agrees with each of us here.
Huzzah!
But most listeners agreed with Daniel Warren Johnson, and that's why that's their choice. So, final nominees here for Breakthrough Talent of 2023. Roberto de la Torre, Leonardo Romero, Tim Sheridan, and Daniel Warren Johnson.
Okay, fantastic.
Murd.
Yes.
Once again.
Here.
Once again.
Here. This is
right back at you, gentlemen.
Yep. This is always so much fun, and I love learning about books that may have not been on my radar before. Serial was not on my radar. It is now. I need to check that out. But yeah, this is a good time all around, and the listeners have a lot to choose from. Now, how long do they have to choose it?
All right. Now. We usually don't give the listeners quite as much time to respond to this because, frankly, it's easier to do. They don't have to come up with nominees or anything. The ballot is all set up before them. All they need to do is make their choices and email them in. So what you got to do to participate in the final voting and decide who's going to get those coveted Jamie Awards in the Best of 2023 awards, you got to look at the finished ballot, which will be posted online. You'll see it at the comic forums. You'll also see it on our CGS supergroup on Facebook. You'll see the full slate of nominees. You need to vote for one and one only nominee in 12 out of the 16 categories. I think I'm doing my math right there. Yeah. So that's three quarters of the categories.
Yep.
Because we understand not everybody has read everything. You don't want to vote for if you're not familiar with any of the nominees in a category, you can skip it. You can do that 4 times in the course of a ballot. So vote in 12 of the 16 categories. Put your votes in an email and send it to bestof BESTOF at comicgeekspeak.com and get it in by 11:59 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Sunday, April 7th.
Okay.
Oh, plenty of time, Murd. Plenty of time.
A little over 2 weeks from the time you hear this.
Okay. Excellent. Yeah. And get those in. And remember, only one ballot per person. Okay, don't try to put in 3. No ballot stuffing going on here. It's whatever you put it in once and once only.
Murd, once again, just outstanding work.
Well,
well done.
It's a great pleasure every year just to share with all of us our choices of the best of the year, and also share with the listeners. And I give special thanks to the small but loyal core of nominators that have participated in this year's nominations process. I know it's hard to find the time to go through all the comics you've read in the past year.
Oh yeah,
but thank you for those of you who took the time to do it and shared your reading suggestions with us, because we always find it just fertile ground for future reading ideas for ourselves, and it's just nice to just share our choices and your choices with all of you, and just see who triumphs in the final voting.
Hear, hear, my friend. Alrighty, so we thank you all once again, and we thank you, of course, at patreon.com/Comic Geek Speak for also helping this happen. For as little as $1 a month, you can go ahead and join up there and help make sure that these episodes keep happening. And we thank you so much for all that support that you give. And now, are you ready, on top of your duties that you were given tonight, to be Shane?
I think I must have missed the bestowal of the duties there. I should have seen it coming. Obviously, Shane is not here to be Shane, so someone's got to be Shane.
All right.
So just a second here. I've got to call up the contact.
If you don't mind, if you don't have it on you, I could always fill in and be tonight's Shane. So that's perfectly acceptable.
I think Murd's done enough for tonight. Why don't you do it, Ian?
All right, fair.
It's okay. It's practically in front of me.
Okay.
Right.
I just got to wait for it. There it is.
All right. Okay. Excellent. Then, by all means, the floor is yours.
Excellent. All right. If you'd like to send us an email, our address is comicgeekspeak@gmail.com. If you want to vote in the Best of 2023 awards process, the address is bestov@comicgeekspeak.com. Or if you'd like to send a voicemail, you can call 267-702-6642. You can like us on Facebook and also check out our Comic Geek Speak super group, where you can participate in all kinds of talkback discussions of our various episodes, or just talk about any geeky subject you like with your fellow CGS listeners. And also that is where you can find the final slate of nominees for the voting in the Best of Awards. You can also follow us on Twitter. We're at Comic Geek Speak on Twitter. We're on Blue Sky as well. You can go to youtube.com/Comic Geek Speak to see the video versions of many of our previous episodes, including this one, to see all the excellent visual aids provided on the fly by our producer par excellence, Ian. It'll make the whole viewing or listening process that much more enjoyable and illustrative. We give special thanks, as always, to those of you who have supported the show monetarily through Patreon or whatever other means available to you. We truly appreciate it, and the show would not be what it is today without your help over the years. And we are uniting the world's mightiest heroes, one list at a time.
All nominees reviewed by PricewaterhouseCoopers. None of us are Al Pacino, and therefore we knew what we were saying.